Hi.
Morning.
How are
Good, how are you?
Good morning.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Yeah, my name is Zishan. Here for the interview.
Are you
Hi.
Are you one of the first-time managers, Nishan?
Yes.
Okay, you just can keep your microphone muted until we actually come to that portion of the agenda.
Perfect. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Good morning. Can you hear me, Gina?
I can. Good morning, Angelo.
Good morning. How are you, my dear?
Good, thank you.
Girl. 4-page agenda. Thanks a lot, Gina.
I tried to keep it to a minimum, but it was a little tough.
Great. I'm on a different computer today, so if I'm using my wife's computer. Does my name appear or does it appear under my wife's name, Michelle?
No, it appears under you.
Oh, good. That's awesome.
Yes.
Let's see if I start my video, where can I see myself?
There you are.
You can see me?
I see you.
Is it clear? Because I can't see me. Usually I can,
Oh, yeah, I see you.
please.
You got a clear view.
Let me call my IT department. Michelle!
Come in and fix this for me. Hurry.
Oh, let's see here, share screen. On my computer, I popped up so I can see myself.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So so can you see the agenda?
I can.
Okay, good. Because usually like I put up the agenda, then we have the column. So you
Yeah.
all appear in a column on mine.
Right, but I don't see that. I usually can. I'm going to put you on mute just for a second, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Gina, just so you know, I'm going to add Carl Neforth right at the beginning, do a moment of silence for him. And I'm going to change one thing on the agenda. I'm going to move the 4-to-1 ratio talk before community pharmacy Norwalk. So after the continuing education program, because that discussion I think will make the next one.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
With the addition on the remodel.
Yeah, I put it in right after Genoa.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah. Gina, how are we looking for commissioners online? I see Brian.
Let's see. I see Deb, I see Brian.
Okay.
That's it at the moment.
Okay. Let the record show that Brian beat Rick, Mary this morning. Let the record show. How are we looking now, Gina? Oh, there's Mary. I see Mary. Good morning, Mary.
Hello, Angelo. Is it a full moon?
Is it a full moon?
Yeah.
It's always a full moon.
Oh my God, people are like losing their, this morning has been like, I've been back to back since 7 a.m.
Oh my, you're all ready to fire. Good.
I'm all ready. I'm ready.
That-
I got the other screen with all of the plans up. I'm
That's a-
good. I'm organized.
If you saw my end, this is the most technology I've ever had in my life. I feel like I'm in a cockpit of an airplane. Good morning,
See?
Deb. Good morning.
It's a good thing.
Brian.
Morning.
Is Kristen here? Kristen? Gina, do you see Kristen?
Sorry, I was muted. No, I don't see Kristen.
Okay.
I see Rick.
Of course we do.
Morning.
Good morning, buddy. Let's see here. Oh, I thought I saw Kristen's name.
She's coming on now, it looks like.
Oh, there she is.
Oh,
Good morning,
okay.
Kristen.
Good morning.
Make sure, good. All right. The crew is here, so I'll get started in a minute, right at 10. You guys can thank Gina for a 4-page agenda, by the way.
Thank you, Gina.
You're very welcome. Anything I can do to help.
Thank you, Gina.
You're welcome.
All right,
Trust me.
seeing that it's 10 o'clock, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. Just some rules of our virtual world that we live in these days. Please make sure that your screen is muted until it's your turn on the agenda or you're called upon. Also, for first-time managers, please make sure that we can see you, not just a meme or your name. We have to be able to actually see you and hear you when we take attendance for first-time managers. So I'll call the meeting to order, and let's start with attendance, and I'll start traditionally to my left with Commissioner Caffarelli.
Good morning, Chairman. This is Brian Caffarelli, Commissioner.
Good morning. This is Kristen Linder, Commissioner.
Good morning, Marion Guanti, Commissioner.
Good morning, Angelo DeFazio, Commissioner.
Morning, Richard Carberry, Commissioner.
Good morning, Debbie Chisholm, Commissioner.
Morning, Gina Samples, Board Administrator.
Good morning to everyone. I'd like to thank Commissioner Carberry and Commissioner Nguante for reminding me again that this past week we lost a true icon of Connecticut pharmacy and Dr. Carl Nieforth, who not only was my professor and my dean while I attended the University of Connecticut, but I know other members on our board knew Carl Nieforth, and he touched many pharmacists live in the state of Connecticut. And Dr. Nieforth was always in the audience. He didn't miss a commissioner's meeting until his health failed him. And I'd like to take a short moment of silence in recognition of Dean Carl Nieforth. Thank you. Okay, before we get started with the new pharmacy applications, I'd like to change the order of the agenda. There is an addition under pharmacy remodels. So the third pharmacy remodel will be the Connecticut Pharmacy East Rock LTC. And I'd like to pull out of miscellaneous matters, the first line item there, the pharmacy technician ratio regulation 2576-33. And I'd like to move it before the community pharmacy NORC request and in between that and the continuing education program, because I think it'll be self-explanatory when we get there for us to handle that first. There is a request for pharmacy internship here. Is Aisha Majid here? Aisha? I know that we had reached out to Aisha. She had not filled out her application yet. So Gina, perhaps she did receive the email and that's why she's not in attendance.
I'm hoping so. I did send her an email this morning.
Okay, very good. Hearing no attendance for Aisha Majid, we're going to table that until her online application is received in order to put her on the agenda. All right, let's jump into new pharmacy applications. Middletown Pharmacy Inc., 682 Main Street, Middletown, is Mahbub Rahman here? I thought I saw the name.
Yeah, he does show he's here.
Okay. Mahbub?
I'm here.
Oh, good. Good. I can't find you. I can't see you. Where are you?
I'm trying to do this video, and for some reason it's not letting me in. Let me first stop and then restart it. Maybe in that case it will let me in.
Is he on the public side? Gina?
I can see the
No,
video.
he's on,
Oh, you
he's on
can.
the panelist
He just needs to
side.
turn it around. I don't know what that. What
Oh,
Yeah, I'm trying to turn it around. It's not letting me. Let me do it again. 1 second.
There you go. Oh, it was a glimpse.
That was his screenshot.
There
Yeah,
you
you
go.
found me?
Yeah.
There you
there- Okay, Mahbub, could you please raise your right hand?
Yes, sir.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Is there any physician ownership in this pharmacy?
No, it is not, sir.
Is there any computer or point of sale or other device that can access patient information that's going to sit outside the pharmacy premises?
It would not, sir.
Will there be any sterile or non-sterile compounding that takes place?
No, sir, it will not.
Okay, very good. Commissioner Carberry, Commissioner Chisholm, all yours.
Thank you.
Morning.
Morning.
Good morning, sir.
Mahmood. Okay, we've got your drawing up on the screen now. Just important to note on these drawings, and probably references for the second pharmacy we're going to look at. There are basically no dimensions of the square footage of the pharmacy or the total building. The application requires that. So I think we're going to have to probably going forward kind of make a more urgent request that people do follow the application process a little bit more closely. I mean, it's documented right in the application. So you can do these drawings hand drawn like this, but it's important that we get a better idea of the square footage of the pharmacy, the overall square footage of the building. So that's just a kind of editorial comment this morning. But if you could walk us through your drawing, showing
Sure,
us
sir.
the pharmacy layout.
Yeah, the door portion, the entrance, it faces that Apollo Avenue. On the main street, it's just the windows. Then we get in the pharmacy and we have this OTC area. We go through this sliding door in the pharmacy, and we have this the front portion for the pickup and drop off. And then there's a pharmacist counter. The safe is right underneath it. And the fridge is on the right side. Just behind the pharmacist are the drug base. And on the left side, there's a restroom, a sink, and a fridge for the employees for the food.
Okay, it's interesting that your interest on Apollo Avenue. I know this building. This is the old Kabachnik building on the corner of Main and Apollo. There shows a rear exit there, but from my looking at the drawing, isn't there a building exactly right behind that? It's not a budding, but there's an alleyway there.
Yeah, this is kind of an alleyway that leads to the trash cans where the dumpster is. So this is kind of an egress for the fire as well, for all those kind of activities.
So I would assume that most of your deliveries are coming through the front then, right? Because it's a very tight area back there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There's no deliveries coming from the outside, from the exit side.
Yeah, I'd also recommend, because of that alleyway, from a security standpoint, you don't want anybody going in and out of there except for an absolute emergency.
Sure, sir. We're going to have a separate alarm. That's what we thought when we went there. We need to plug that portion as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, it's a very tight alleyway back there. I know that street very well. So that's good that you're not going to have any deliveries coming in and out of there.
Yes, sir.
And again, it's a 3-story building. I assume you've got security cameras and things there to protect you from any ingress from above the apartments up there, as far as I know.
Yeah.
All right, so you're fully secured with cameras and.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. We have alarms and cameras going on. Yes.
Everything else seems to be in place.
Yeah, I didn't have any concerns
Yeah.
outside of what you mentioned with the drawing and the dimensions.
Yeah, I think it's important. We're going to have to probably emphasize that going forward, because it's in the application, and it's just helpful to see those dimensions as it relates to the pharmacy premise versus the entire building. So, but other than that, I'm fine also.
Mahmood, can you get us at least the exterior footage and just email
Yes, sir.
email
Yes,
it
sir.
to Gina? Yeah, just the total square footage and the length and the width. Just so that if the counters and things like that are not in perfect scale, we're fine with that. But to know the square footage and the scale of the licensed premises is part of the requirement. So if you can get that to Gina.
Sure. I will email that today, sir.
Okay, sounds good. Any other questions, Commissioner Carberry, Commissioner Chisholm?
No, all set.
No.
All right, now I think we're going to a relative, or it's a real big coincidence. Is Norwich Pharmacy LLC here? Adil? Gina, do you see Adil?
He is here. He's on the panelist side.
Adil Abdul? Adil? Oh, I see. Yeah, they're silenced. There, Adil? Can't hear you. Adil, can't hear you. Now you're muted. How about now? Can you hear us? Can you? We can't hear you. Can you guys hear him?
I can't hear him.
I can't
No.
hear him. He's not muted.
No, I know. Adil, could you speak? Could you just say something to see if we can hear you?
May need to check the microphone on your computer.
Maybe turn it up. Virtual meetings.
Yeah, so if you click on the mute button, there's an arrow there usually. If you click on it, it'll pull up your microphone, your speaker up.
And then just slide it to the right.
Yeah, just make sure it's clicked on the microphone.
You're muted. Now you should be able to talk. Go ahead. If I knew sign language, we could continue, but I don't. I'll tell you what, I'm going to move on, Adil, and you fix this issue, see if you can fix it, and we'll reverse back to you, okay? Nod your head so that I know that you understood me. I said we're going to move on until you can fix your mute issue, okay? 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 Okay. We'll circle back, okay, Gina?
Okay.
Okay, let's go to pharmacy remodels. Is New Canaan Pharmacy here, 44 East Avenue, New Canaan?
Yes, sir.
How are you?
Good morning. Good. How are you, sir?
Good. Just for the record, could you state your name and spell your last name, please?
Yeah, my first name is Premal, last name Patel, P-A-T-E-L.
Okay, very good. Commissioner Carberry and Commissioner Chisholm.
Okay, thanks, Gina, for the drawing. So there's actually two drawings that we saw, which is great.
There is.
The existing and the proposed. So the proposed is there in front of us. And I think we can ask.
Do you want to see the existing first?
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
show the
Let's look at the
existing.
existing. Yeah, let's look at the existing.
All right, so we can see the existing space. And then we can have the applicant discuss the addition, which looks like a entry into a previous hair salon. So that's the proposed floor plan there.
I think the tab on your left should that would show the comparison. Yeah, if you switch towards the left, that's the proposed, and if you scroll towards the left, yeah, that's the existing.
There you go. Perfect.
Perfect. That's what we need. So you can see the existing salon. So give us an idea of what you've done. I see stairs there. You've moved stairs, and kind of give us an idea of what's happening with that new square footage.
Sure, sir. So if you see in the existing one, we have the stairs in the middle and there's the wall. We are going to close off the stairs completely, and we'll be opening up at least 16 feet wall to merge both the stores so that everything would be on one single level. And we'll be moving, if you see on the existing floor plan, right where the stairs are, behind that we have the whole pharmacy area, totally cordoned, and the counter that you see, there's registers and the pharmacy area. So that pharmacy department is going inside the salon area. There we'll gain some more space. And if we see on the proposed floor plan, once everything is open, there's the two registers, they're going across, and there's a door for the register area, and behind that, the whole curved counter. Technically, after that, the whole thing, if you can zoom in, I will be. All right, so here as we see, there are two registers, there are a straight counter up there, there are two chairs, and behind that, there's a sliding door, the whole counter for the pharmacy. There's a refrigerator right back there in the pharmacy area for the medicines. And right across, if you see all the way at the corner, there's the C2 wall that we are planning to place, all bolted in the wall and the floor. And there would be, we'll have some shelving areas for the medicines and everything. There's one washroom and there's a sink right back there. And there's the exit door that opens up towards the back of the building.
So in looking at, so you've got two half doors off the waiting area. I see one right behind the register and then one entering into behind the pharmacist counter there.
Yes, sir.
So the only question I have is you do have a direct sight line from that doorway where a customer or patient can be sitting, looking straight at your C2 safe.
Okay. Yeah.
And
So
that being
yeah. So on the counter portion, we're gonna like, if you see as the floor plan, you will see like it's visible, but we are gonna cordon that door so that way nobody would be able to see through our workspace. So the counter height, and even like we'll place a partition right up there.
So where the door is itself, where's the partition?
If you zoom in, we are planning to place the partition where we enter the pharmacy area and the counter. So when the counter starts, we would have the partition of 6 feet high from the floor. So that way we won't be able to see in or see through inside the pharmacy area.
Okay.
So we'll have a door kind of thing, like instead of the one that doing the 3 feet flap.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit.
Oh, sorry. Hello.
Yeah, that's the only concern. I mean, having a direct shot sight line to that safe and people accessing the safe with, patients there. So as long as you've got some kind of partition that.
Yeah, we are actually planning the partition up there. It's just that like once we open up, we'll get a better idea. So we are actually planning to cordon that whole thing, let's say, after the register area, because we do vaccinations and everything. So we'll pretty much like cordon that one so that it becomes a little bit of counseling area, and we will have it partitioned so that way it's not visible from outside.
And this
So
is for your safety. So Pramal, this is for your safety, right? You don't want someone to stand at the counter and know exactly where to go to get the drugs. Okay, just want to make sure you understand why we're spending time talking about this.
Yeah, no, definitely, man.
If you're not on the agenda, please mute right now, because there's a lot of background stuff coming through. Pramal, I'd like to ask you, I probably should have done this sooner. Will there be any non-sterile or sterile compounding being done in the new remodel?
No, sir. No
Okay, very
compound.
good. Thank you.
And where you're talking about vaccinations, so where's that so-called vaccination consultation area on this drawing?
We'll be planning it right. If you see, if you can zoom in. Oh yeah. Okay. So it's not posted in here, but the only reason why we haven't posted it yet, because once we open up, we'll come to know the space. But as you said that it shouldn't be visible. So right after the register area, let's say the register door, if you go up, or the starting of the counter of the pharmacy, there's a flap door that enters the register area. So from that one, we'll be cordoning, starting from a little bit up. Oh, no, sorry.
You meant left, to the left?
Yeah, no, you're at the right point. It's just I'm trying to move the mouse. If you can point the mouse where we have the register entrance area, a little bit up where the registers are, or the starting. Yep, so that's the register area. If we go a little bit deep, lower, that's the register entrance area. And where the door hinges, behind that is the whole pharmacy counter that starts up. So aligned to that, towards left, we're planning to coordinate straight towards the window.
So you're basically removing some of those seats is what you're saying.
Yeah, probably if needed. So as of now, it's because of remodel. Once we open up, we'll come to know like how much space we are looking at. So that's the only reason why it's not actually posted, because we wouldn't know until we open up and how much space is there. But we'll definitely make sure that if we do that, we'll take care of the privacy first. And as Commissioner Carbonate said, that we already are planning that even if we don't keep anything, and if there's just a waiting area, we are gonna put up like a whole cordon towards the pharmacy, so nobody would be able to see. Even if they are in the waiting area, they wouldn't have a direct vision towards the pharmacy.
Well, if you're going to do that after the fact, you got to come back to the board and get that approved.
Yeah.
That I think that's what Commissioner Carberry and Commissioner Chisholm are saying here. It's not in the drawing now, so you can't just add it later if it's not.
Yeah, probably. No, I don't understand, sir. So that's why I said like we are not planning as of yet. But if we do, yeah, obviously I'll do for the another agenda.
Correct. Yeah, that was my comment. That if it's not going to be there, you're going to have to come back when you do decide to put a room in there. But I think that satisfies the privacy if you take care of that partition based on what you told us this morning. So I don't have any other questions at this point. Debbie?
It's fine. I think we're all set.
Yeah.
Thank you, Premal. I'll continue on with all the pharmacy remodels and then work our way back to Norwich Pharmacy since we're in that section now.
Thank you.
Genoa Healthcare, 21 Montauk Avenue, New London.
Good morning.
Good morning. For the record, could you state your name and spell your last name?
Sure, it's Matthew Lindauer, Lindauer.
Good morning, Matthew. Will there be any non-sterile or sterile compounding done in the remodel?
There will not be, no.
Continue, Commissioner Carberry, Commissioner Chisholm.
Thank you. Again, thank you again for the before and after pictures. Those are very helpful. So it certainly helps. So kind of walk us through the drawing. The drawing is a little tight in terms of reading some of these things. I was able to expand it on my computer yesterday, and in the proposed, I was able to locate everything that we're looking for. I did have a question in the upper right of, I noticed that you've created another room. Maybe it looks like a storage room up in the upper right-hand corner. Is that what that is?
Yeah, that's correct. That would just be like vial storage. No, there would be no medications stored there, just kind of supplies.
So Matt, can you just outline for me what the license area is? So this blood draw area, is that within the pharmacy?
It is not. So that's we do use that room for immunizations. We're located within a clinic that used to do phlebotomy. So that area is next to the pharmacy. It's not, once again, not an area where there are any medications or any pill counting or any there's really no pharmacy operations in that room other than immunizing.
So it is within the license or not within the licensed pharmacy? Because it looks like there's only one way in.
It's the only way in is through our waiting area. I guess I'd have to double check with our regional manager and see if she knows with certainty. I would think that it's not within the licensed area. In fact, this was not the drawing that should have been submitted, should have excluded that area. This was the original, the contractor included that as well as some of the areas beyond the blood draw room, which, you know, are clinic area and not pharmacy area. I would think that the licensed area is only, you know, when you enter through the waiting area into the actual pharmacy space, that should be the only area. That this other area is not part of the remodel at all.
Right, but you are doing immunizations in that room with a
We
pharmacist.
do use it for immunizations, yes. So then I mean, I don't know
It's, yeah, I mean, you got a pharmacist going into a non-licensed area. I mean,
okay.
I mean, I think,
Because you can license the entire thing.
Okay.
You know, the concern would just be that if you're using that room for anything else, right? Because it says blood draw. So if you wanted to use it for blood draw, you couldn't have someone who's not a pharmacist go, you know,
Okay.
come in and say,
Right.
hey, I'm not going into the pharmacy where the drugs are, but I'm just
Got
going to
it.
go into this blood draw section. So
Understood.
if you license the entire thing, as long as a pharmacist is present, they can go into that room.
Okay. All right, then I apologize with that explanation. Then yes, the whole area should be licensed.
And that means that the waiting area has to also be licensed.
Correct. Correct.
You can't go to a non-licensed area into a licensed area. So you'd have to
Okay.
include also the waiting area.
and so on the before drawing, you had a consultation window. Now it looks like you're going to go into a waiting area and have access right with someone at a counter. And I see the door opening. Looks
Right.
like it's a full door going into the pharmacy, correct? Or
Yes.
is that a half door? Is that a half?
No,
or
no,
full door?
that's a full door that remains locked, you know, during hours of operation.
Right, so there's direct access for the patients when they come in right to that counter, correct? That's what your plan is?
Which,
When they walk into the waiting area, how do they access staff?
so the consultation window, the labeling there is a little misleading. There is a window there where you can see into the pharmacy. The actual window that the you know, the patients would you know, have contact with the staff through is basically, if you look at in the drawing where it says waiting area and proceed to the pharmacy wall there, that's actually a window. I can't read exactly how that's labeled now, but that's where our point of sale is. That's the area where where we have a sliding window where the patients would then talk to a pharmacy staff member.
Yeah, because it says a ledge, a service ledge. So you're saying that's got a sliding window there.
Correct.
Okay, so that's the access for the patients. Okay.
Yes.
I saw the consultation window gone. So you have an effect.
Yeah, that's
you're
a
saying it's
little
just labeled.
misleading where he has that labeled.
Yeah, it just says, you know, whatever 4 foot wide service ledge. That really is your consultation window. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see anything everything else is in place inside the, you know, the relocated area. And again, just license the whole thing as a pharmacy.
Mhm.
Okay.
That eliminates the problem with the blood draw. No other questions.
All set. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Moving on with pharmacy remodels, Connecticut Pharmacy East Rock LTC has been added, 10 Fairfield Boulevard in Wallingford.
Morning.
Good morning, Rob.
Morning.
Rob, we can't see you.
Oh, sorry. There we go.
Good morning, Rob. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
For the record, could you state your name and spell your last name, please?
Robert Zirlis, Zirlis.
Will there be any non-sterile or sterile compounding that takes place in your remodel?
Yes, non-sterile.
Okay, so, you know, you'll have to go through USP and have non-sterile compounding policies and procedures in place, and we'll have to add that as part of the record to make sure that the agent looks for that.
Correct.
Okay. Commissioner Carberry, Commissioner Chisholm.
Thank you.
Good morning, Rob.
Good morning.
this drawing we're gonna need some help on.
Yeah.
Because the current pharmacy is just a square. There's nothing there. I see the new pharmacy outlined in red. So maybe you can walk us through, because I don't see anything except one spot that says sink and safe. Otherwise, I don't see any other.
There was an additional floor plan that had that a little bit more highlighted on it. I'm not sure the one that I'm looking at looks a little different, but our current pharmacy area to the left that is circled includes the red box right next to it, to the right of it. So that is our complete pharmacy currently. We are losing that, where it says current pharmacy, the box on the bottom left, and replacing it with the new pharmacy area to the upper right-hand side of the red drawing there.
Okay.
All right, yeah, it's confusing, but now you mentioned that. Yeah, it
It's
doesn't make
going to be a
sense.
complete rectangle instead of the square shape that it currently is.
Okay,
Very helpful.
that does help. So just kind of delineate what some of the stuff in there is. Like, looks like a lot of those offices and chairs, and it's hard to tell what's in that lower rectangle on the left upper side of it.
Those are the bathrooms.
Those are just bathrooms, okay.
Yes.
So talk about in the new pharmacy area, what's in there? I see sink safe, and that's all I see. So what's going on in there?
Correct. We're going to be moving over all of our existing rolling shelves that have medications on it, and they will be set up within that new pharmacy area, almost identical to what we currently had in that in the smaller area. It's extended a little bit bigger. Our refrigerator will be going right next to the sink and safe in that locked room. And that'll be we're going to be utilizing that as a control room as well. So all controls will go in there.
Yeah, again, I'll go back to my earlier comments. I would like to see a better drawing. I mean, it's just really to show current pharmacy and the new pharmacy without some of the real specifics. It's difficult to look at these drawings. I know it's only a relocation, but it's just a comment.
Yeah, Rob, everything on the left, is that just what's the other suites has nothing to do with your pharmacy?
Correct.
Yeah, if there's any way that you can, I mean, we didn't need all of that. Thank you for having it. So I can have a visual of what the entire area looks like. But if you can somehow, I guess, blow up the pharmacy area so we can actually see that piece of it, because that's the part that we need to look at. So.
I apologize. I thought that the blown up version was sent in. I obviously that was not. I do have a copy of that I can forward to you.
Please
shows
mute your computers.
Shows the dimensions and everything of the new space. One note to that new pharmacy area, that was an existing approved pharmacy area in the past. So there's all of the required things are already set up in place from the standpoint of the walls and the security and so forth in that area.
Right. Do you have a blown up copy, Gina? You're on mute.
Gina?
You're still on mute.
Apologize that I'm trying to be quiet. I pulled out the last one I received. So that was the last one I had received.
Can you send that off to Gina? Rick, I don't know what you think about that, but I would like to see this in a blown up version before we move forward.
Absolutely.
Really hard to see this.
Yeah, I couldn't have an agent walk in
trying
to inspect the relocation with what we have here, unfortunately.
I could send it as we speak right now.
Yeah, if you can do that, Mr. Chairman, I would be okay if we moved on.
Highly unusual for us to do this, but since we don't have a meeting next
July,
month, I can see the urgency of trying to get it done in this meeting. So I will allow it, Rob.
Okay, I'm going to send it right now.
Yeah, so if you can send that, Gina, once you receive it, if you could use your magic to get it up on the screen, it'll give us some time to go back and look at Norwich Pharmacy LLC while Rob sends that to us. Okay, Rob?
All right, will do.
Come back to you in a few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, going backwards now. Let's go back to Norwich Pharmacy LLC. Adil Abdul Rahman, are you here? Can we hear you?
Yes, yes. Can you hear me now?
Much better. How are you? Could you please raise your right hand, please? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
For the record, could you state your name and spell your last name?
Yes, my name is Adil Abdurrahman, and my last name is spelled as R-E-H-M-A-N.
Is there any physician ownership in this pharmacy?
No,
Will any computer, point of sale, or other device that can access HIPAA information from a patient sit outside the pharmacy premise?
no,
Will there be any non-sterile or sterile compounding at the pharmacy?
no,
Okay, thank you very much. And by the, are you related to the other Raymond?
no.
You're
That's a
not?
coincidence. No.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Okay, very good. Commissioner Carberry,
Yeah.
Commissioner Chisholm?
There we
Morning,
go.
Adele.
There we go.
Hi, good morning.
Okay, here, it's a little better. Okay. Back door, front door. Again, this is very similar to what we saw earlier.
Yeah, I
Okay.
just noticed that. Yeah, so it's located in Salem Plaza. It's like on both sides they have. I think on the left side they have edible shop, and on the right side there is the U.S. Army Force Center, and on the back I think they also have a parking in the back. Where you see the exact exit door, so they have a parking lot I think in the back. So pretty much it's simple drawing.
Yeah, no, it's a strip. There's a strip mall right in Salem Turnpike. I'm familiar with the area. So
Yeah,
the pharmacy is a pretty standard setup from what we can see here.
yeah,
The safe and the pharmacist counter, I assume, is behind the counter.
yes,
Underneath.
yes,
So it's not visible at all by patients.
yes, yeah. So I think they want the area to be open on the pharmacies both sides, so that's why they have pharmacist counter in the center, and then the production area will be on the left side, which is like where you see the fridge and the wires. Here will be the production area, and then the pharmacist counter will be in the center, and behind the pharmacist counter there will be like shelves having all the drugs, the prescription drugs, and then on the front side of the pharmacist counter there's a candy counter and pick up and drop off area. And on left side there's as you can see, the bathroom, and there is a space between them, between the break room and the bathroom, which will be our sink area. And that's it. And on the right side is already a boiler room, so we're not gonna touch that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I don't see any issues here.
No.
All right.
No, looks good.
Okay. Thank you, Adele.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's see. Let's go back to Connecticut Pharmacy East Rock LTC. Gina, did it come through?
Yes. That actually was already included in the original. I'm not sure why it wasn't
Okay.
wasn't
Is this
found.
it?
That's it right there.
Okay. Oh, boy.
Maybe one more time. Gina, rotate one more time. There we go.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. There you go.
There.
Like this?
Well, it's upside down now.
It's upside down.
Oh, no, actually it is.
It's
in-
right.
Yeah.
It's upside down for the,
Right.
new door exit, but everything else is written this way.
Okay.
Okay.
Continue.
Okay, the existing square up into where it says office is already established here. We are just adding a door right past you see the halfway down the diagram, there are 3 offices. There is an entrance going into the new area that we have. And that area is like I said, was an existing licensed pharmacy area that we will be taking over and eliminating what was to the left of it. The upper section, there was a part of our pharmacy that is now being removed, and it's being replaced with this existing area.
Can you scroll up a little, Gina? Can you, so we can see the whole? Okay. So Rob, tell me, where do the patients come in? Is it that door that's on the bottom, or the new one that's on the top?
It's a closed door pharmacy. We
Closed door
don't.
pharmacy.
Yeah, we don't allow patients.
Got it.
And just one thing that we are going to be adding to the diagram on the bottom where the 2 offices are, we're adding an additional door for security. So there'll be 2 doors that have to be entered in order to get into the pharmacy area. So there's just an additional door that's going to be added past the first door that's at the very bottom.
So like creating a little corridor. So it's
Exactly.
just to the left of the office.
Correct.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, in a closed door pharmacy, aren't you still supposed to have access for patients? I know all the medications are being shipped out, but I had a closed door pharmacy too, but you still by regs had to have a patient access.
Correct.
Correct.
There at the top part of the screen, if necessary, there is where we are putting a new door. That is going to be there will not be access to medications in that area, and there is a locked door that keeps that separate in the new area. So if we did have to allow someone to come in, they could come into that area. That is all just administrative storage of non-medications and office areas.
Right, because we only have the 1 license, so you have to allow it. You don't fill their prescriptions. That's entirely up to you, but you do have to allow them in.
That area would be the area that we would be able to allow someone into.
That top left-hand door, not.
Yes,
not
correct. No, that's a closet actually.
Oh.
Do they have to come in through? So that's not, you have it as an exit, but that's got to be entrance too.
Correct.
So that should be corrected. Because by regs, you've got to have an entrance.
And so I'm not seeing a sink. Am I missing that? Is that somewhere else?
The sink is directly next to the safe. It's a very small box. I apologize. That's
Oh, I see it.
directly next to the safe is a small sink that is right next to it.
So the safe is in a room? Is that what it is?
Correct.
Okay, I think I see it. That small box on the top right of that room, correct?
That is the sink, yes.
Okay. And your refrigerator?
Is moving from our existing unit into that same room.
So I think we need to mark that out.
Okay.
So Rob, I think what you're hearing from the commissioners, and I'll make the suggestion is, even if you do it just with a pen, nice and neat, point out the sink, change the exit to say enter/exit or outside patient entrance if needed, and just doctor this up and then send it to Gina, because we do this so that agents can come in and have a template, not to waste their time and to know what was approved.
Absolutely.
This is a very difficult, because it's closed shop. It's a little different than some of the plans that we typically approve. So just to have that labeled, I think would really help and to get it to Gina. So I'll let Commissioner Carberry, Commissioner Chisholm continue. You make sure you keep notes on what you're suggesting so that you can doctor this up and send it to Gina. Okay.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Commissioner Carberry, Commissioner Chisholm.
Yeah, I think it's just those two items to be added to the existing drawing. A customer entry and refrigerator, whether it be drug refrigerator, and if it's going to be food required, a food refrigerator in that pharmacy space.
Okay.
Those two additions.
Like, is there benches where there's work benches, or like where the medicine is going to sit on shelving? I know you said it rolls in. Like, is there packaging systems in this section? I'm just curious. 'Cause I don't understand that.
Again, the shelves are just going to move over and be placed in that area once approved. There are shelves that are, there are small bench areas that are going to be used in there, actually cubicles.
Okay.
For each individual that'll be placed as well.
Okay, if you want to draw that in, that'll be great too.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I just think, this is, we looked at 3 this morning, and again, to follow the actual application process, even though this is a relocation, it's important that we see all that on these drawings, because again, this is the photo that the agent gets to bring in the template that we approve.
Right.
And they're coming in kind of blind without all the information in front of them.
Okay.
So it's really as a courtesy to our agents when they go out, and makes sure inspection a lot easier for them to do. So.
And we had quite a few agents retire recently who understood the process really well. And we have a lot of newer agents, so they're going to really depend on these templates going forward.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
Anything
Otherwise,
else?
all set.
Anything
All
else
set.
for Rob? Commissioner Chisholm?
I think we're good. Thanks, Rob.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Good. Hearing no more questions for our new pharmacy applications and our pharmacy remodels, I will accept a motion for Middletown Pharmacy in Middletown, Connecticut.
Motion to approve as presented.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. In the matter of Norwich Pharmacy, new pharmacy application. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion to approve as presented.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Deny? Abstentions? Motion passes. For pharmacy remodels with New Canaan Pharmacy in New Canaan, Connecticut. What is your pleasure?
Motion to approve as presented.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Pharmacy remodel passes. Genoa Healthcare LLC, New London. What is your pleasure?
Motion to approve as presented.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. Connecticut Pharmacy, East Rock LTC in Wallingford, Connecticut. What is your pleasure?
Motion to approve, provided additional information on the drawings are sent in regarding customer entry, exit, and location of refrigerators in the space, as well as any other pharmacy counters and benches and cubicles that are appropriate.
You hear the motion before us. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. Okay, let's go. Let's see, is our legal Esquire available? Attorney Ando, are you in this virtual house of ours? Gina, do you see our Esquire?
I see Lila on the call.
Oh, Lila's on the call.
So Lila's on call. I believe Kathleen Koss may be presenting.
Wow. We have a lot of attorneys on our call today.
Oh, I like it.
Is Michael here also? Oh, that's right. You too. Wow. Wow, I'm surrounded. When did we get that bill? Is Michael, are you in our virtual house, sir?
Michael is on, but he's having some audio problems.
Because he's letting his 5-month-old do it.
So I did allow him to talk and promoted him.
We know what Michael looks like. We'll allow his voice to do his representing. Michael, if you can't get the camera up, as long as we can hear you, I think we can proceed.
It sounds like he might be listed as a,
Hello.
oh, fabulous. Great.
I'm so sorry about that. I'm not sure why that link took me in as a non-panelist.
Maybe they're trying to send a message. Good morning, Michael. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well. How are you?
Good. Being able to hear your voice and having this array of attorneys on our virtual meeting today, this is wonderful. Why don't you tell us a little bit about case number 2020-947?
Absolutely. So this was a case that we are requesting an agreement to settle. It involved a few different issues with the pharmacy manager. One of them was the treatment of outdated controls, which were not properly labeled and either destroyed or returned in a safe way to manufacturer, et cetera. Within that, obviously, we have an inventory problem that these created sort of as a downstream problem. So there were perpetual inventory issues there. They were not properly inventoried. And then as a result of that not existing, those records could not be produced for agents. So that came in as an additional issue. Similarly, there were issues with Legend drugs that had been returned to stock or not appropriately either destroyed or, again, sent back to a manufacturer. So this, as the commission knows, this can create issues with difficulty of tracking particular lots, difficulty tracking expiration dates, those types of issues. We have another, I almost want to say overarching issue, although it's not necessarily more important in terms of public health and safety. But this individual had a previous agreement with this commission in 2009. And part of that agreement was that they would not become a pharmacy manager again without appearing before the commission. So this individual did not appear before the commission before they began working as a pharmacy manager. So as far as we can tell, this individual has been a pharmacy manager since late 2019 at this particular location where they were employed. It's not clear whether or not this individual was a pharmacy manager in any capacity prior to that. So their first agreement was in 2009, and some amount of time, and potentially a decade, had elapsed between the first agreement, which did contain other probationary conditions, and when it was discovered that they were acting as a pharmacy manager in this case. So there's a lot of, it's potentially possible that they had only recently become a pharmacy manager. In this initial agreement, the general probationary period for most of the restrictions was about 15 months. However, the requirement to appear before the commission was not delineated with a time frame. So there was no expiration date on that requirement. As the commission knows, this is a problem for public health, these particular issues that led to the investigation here with the outdated controls and the record keeping problems. And it's also a problem generally because it means that this individual didn't follow the requirements of their 2009 agreement. We've proposed a settlement agreement in this case that we would request the commission to accept that involves several requirements for the respondent. The first is a $1,500 civil penalty payment. It would also involve, more importantly, in my view, that this individual immediately step down as a manager, as well as an agreement that they would never act in the role of a manager again. And I say act in the role of a manager because it doesn't.
Can we get egg and cheese on
Dale, could you please mute your screen?
with wheat toast?
Thank you.
Sorry. So I say act as a manager because it doesn't only require that they not be employed as a manager. It also requires that they not engage in the duties of a manager. So the things that you all as pharmacists think of, the record keeping, the stock responsibilities, stocking and ordering responsibilities, being responsible for the counts and the inventorying, those things. There's also law, quality assurance, continuing education component, and also significantly, it would require that this individual inform their employer of the agreement. That is something that we think is important because it ensures that there's an extra layer of oversight. Our understanding presently is that he has already stepped down as a manager and is no longer acting in that capacity voluntarily in anticipation, hopefully, of an agreement. There are a few reasons why we've reached these terms that we're proposing today. This was a protracted negotiation that extended for a long period of time. We had concerns about keeping momentum, and fundamentally, Drug Control Division's job and their goal when they enter into these cases or when they find these particular issues that require investigation is public safety, public health and safety. The best way to do this in many cases, or to achieve that end in many cases, is to, as quickly as possible, remove whatever circumstances may be creating that public health threat. So in this case, we looked at this and thought that the best way to approach it would be to quickly remove this individual from a position where they could continue to engage in the kind of activities that brought us this case in the first place. Secondarily to that, but related directly, is we seek to find a binding resolution. So something that we can immediately act on. A settlement means that it would immediately be enforceable. If there's an issue, then we can enforce it immediately through other actions. So, in certain cases, that might mean something like an immediate suspension. And that gives us a little bit more ability to take those more dramatic steps if the situation does warrant it. Primarily, it gets that person in a case like this out of that position. It puts them under proper supervision faster, and it prevents them from returning to that position. So one of the other components of that is that if we do not enter into a settlement agreement with someone today, what would happen is that we would go back to the negotiation drawing board, essentially. So, and this is true of every time we appear before the commission, but sometimes it's maybe more salient than other times. The likelihood of a negotiation would be uncertain, and it would probably be something that would be very much case dependent. It would take time, and it may just return us to the need for a hearing, which also would take time. At that point, other timelines would come into play that wouldn't necessarily, allow us to work within, just the basic sort of framework of a monthly meeting. And it could potentially take longer. During this time, this individual may not feel that they're restricted from engaging in some of the behaviors that we have been looking at in this case settlement. And part of that is because we would be in the process of enforcing them anyway. So, it essentially creates, I wouldn't say a loophole, it creates new violations as it continues on, but it doesn't necessarily address that public health and safety issue as quickly as if we approached it from a perspective of a settlement agreement. So, just to quickly recap the terms, we're looking at a request for commission acceptance that involves a $1,500 civil payment. This individual would step down immediately as a manager, which again, to our knowledge, he already has. They would agree never to be a manager again or to act in the role of a manager again. Additional law and quality assurance, continuing education, and inform the employer of the agreement. So going forward, there wouldn't be an opportunity maybe to not disclose that information.
So before we open it up to discussion, I'd like to follow Robert's rules. So let's, I think we should take a motion and then opening up to discussion before we have a roll vote on whether or not we accept the settlement as presented. So I'll accept the motion to accept the settlement as presented in the case 2020-947. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I will second it. Now we'll open it up for discussion. Michael, first of all, was there a step down in this case?
Indeed, there was, and thank you for raising that. I blanked on it at the beginning of this introduction.
All right.
So Commissioner Brian Caffarelli was the step down in this case.
And was there a fine associated with this case in 2009?
I am not sure off the top of my head. Let me just pull that back up. I was focused mainly on the probationary issues as they related to this case. And, I do apologize for that.
Okay. And while you're looking
I believe that there was a fine of, my apologies, there was a fine of $1,000.
$1,000. So this is basically the second time and it's now $1,500. So it went up $500.
Yes, they are different issues. I'm not saying that that's.
I understand.
Yeah.
And my big question is that because we saw this with the CE certification of licensure, in order to become a pharmacy manager, you have to fill out a pharmacy manager change application. And I'm assuming that that was done. Is that correct?
I do not have confirmation of that, to be completely honest with you.
Well, I think that's incredibly important because that's part of the process. And if that was done and we still allowed this pharmacist to become a pharmacy manager, even though there was a red flag that he or she cannot become a pharmacist manager until they came forward to the commission for us to allow that. I can understand that perhaps we have some fault in not having a system in place that denied that application. So I think it's really important. And I don't know, Brian, if you can comment, or one of the other attorneys that are online, on whether or not you know that the pharmacy owner or the pharmacy or the pharmacist himself or herself applied for a pharmacy manager change application, because that's important to me. Because if they did apply for that, or he or she, and we still granted that pharmacy manager, then a little bit of shame is on us for not having a system to say, wait a minute, this person can't be a pharmacy manager. Because there was 10 years there, and 10 years is a long time. And I'm kind of taking some of that into consideration.
I may have one comment that would be relevant to this, although I'm not sure it would directly answer your question.
Okay.
All right, strike that. It would not directly answer your question, but it is relevant to the discussion. So there is an element to this, which is the march of time, so to speak, with technology. So the 2009 case, probably was not entered into an online case management system at the time. And then at some point there would have been a migration into that system. And then at some point a few years ago, there was a migration into the present system that we use, which is integrated through our public facing, the e-licensing system. So, when you search a pharmacist's name and you look for their history, you'll see that. Similarly, when we are searching through our case history, we'll see things that were associated with cases historically, here meaning that occurred before our current system. And in some ways that we may not always be aware of, there may have been a difference in what was and wasn't an option in the system. So where presently, I understand how this current system works and licensing understands how this current system works. And if they see a settlement agreement that comes out of a Commission of Pharmacy meeting from 2022, they'll know, well, either there is some kind of a lock on this license that's not letting them renew the license, or there's some kind of a little flag that just says you should check and ensure that this is actually appropriate to take an action on this license because there is this condition and, you know, it will reference a case number or something like that, or an individual for them to check in with. In 2009, I don't know personally, it was before my time here by quite a while, but I don't know personally if there was a system like that. And I also don't know how cleanly it would have transitioned to a new system. This is something that we do occasionally see with cases of this age. It's not exceedingly common, because it's not exceedingly common for someone to have a 10+ year agreement in effect. You know, they're just not the commonplace. When they do happen, it's, we hope generally that they're caught, and I think that they usually have been. But I do, and I think that you're raising an important issue when you compare it to the things like the continuing ed. I think those sorts of issues have been on our radar in a way that they weren't always in the past, because we're dealing with new issues that we're realizing are coming up as a product of either new regulations or changing interpretations of them or statutes. And also from new changes or, you know, updates to our software processes. You know, a lot of these things now, we have an ability maybe to automate them that we wouldn't have had in the past. I mean, even as recently as 3 years ago, wouldn't have had an ability to. So we're finding new ways and trying to address those things that way. The hope would be that because we have those in place now, this type of a thing wouldn't happen again. I'm not gonna say that we'll never have that kind of an instance happen again, but there are systems in place now where if there was a check on this, I wouldn't imagine that there would be this kind of uncertainty about it. If it came in, I think it would be visible.
I'm sure there's other questions. Any other commissioners have any questions on this particular case for Attorney Ando?
Attorney Ando, I did have questions. So when you say going forward, there would be something that would prevent this person from becoming a pharmacy manager again. As an employer, I would, you know, I kind of feel for their employer, because they had this person as a pharmacy manager that technically shouldn't have been. So is there something on the license as an employer that I can look at to say, hey, this person is restricted, I cannot give them the position of pharmacy manager? Or is that just on our end?
It would essentially be on our end. You know, what we're looking at as a restriction on the license rather than a status change on the license, really. So a status change might be a suspension or a revocation, but we're looking at a restriction. So there are a lot of ways, and there are a lot of different agreements that, you know, we talk to the commission that are restricting in different ways. We might have a restriction that applies only to the treatment of control, you know, Schedule II controlled substances, or it might apply to all drug storage in a location, or, you know, things like that. So in this case, that the employer would have direct access to, I mean, I think our goal with requiring him to inform his employer was to achieve that end. But I don't necessarily know that they would have an initial, unless they were doing a check. And I don't know, to be honest with you, how employers check licensing. I don't know if they call in to check for a good standing. I mean, this is a restriction on a license, right? So if you're asking about, you know, writing in or emailing in or whatever to request a letter of good standing or something, or ask about restrictions on a license, they would be restrictions that would be public. You know, it's part of a public agreement. It's a restriction on the license. But I don't necessarily know, well, I don't know necessarily their process employer by employer for seeking that information. But I don't know if it would be something that would just pop up depending on how they go about that process.
Thank you for answering that question. I have another question. So he violated a settlement agreement previously, although it was a settlement agreement 10 years ago.
Correct.
Correct. At the point where he violated it. And so we're going to give him another settlement agreement. And if he violates this one, because it appears that there's no disciplinary action at all involved, if I'm reading this correctly. He's going to pay a fine, but there's no documented disciplinary action for him violating that settlement agreement.
I guess I would ask what exactly that means. I mean, there is a discipline in the sense that he has a settlement agreement. Is that so? A settlement agreement is discipline. I feel that I'm not probably answering this question the exact way that you're looking.
Can I be heard?
Yeah, I see you. Yeah, Brian, if you can answer.
Thank you. So I think, well, a couple things to note here. And again, this is Brian Caffarelli, Commissioner, and I did serve as a step down on the case. In terms of prior, history, when it's considered for multiple, for a subsequent offense, if you will, for the agency, I believe the look back is somewhere around 5 years. So it's extraordinary to go back to 2009. It was just, that came up because there was this specific provision with regard to the pharmacy manager. And what I'm hearing from Attorney Ando and my understanding of the agency's operation is that what was sussed out here, that in 2009, there was not this flag on the license when they're not allowed to be, they being a pharmacist, a licensee, allowed to be a pharmacy manager, but now that will exist. So when an application comes in with a pharmacist who is flagged, they will not be allowed to be appointed as such. But in terms of the discipline, my understanding of the agreement is that there's a CE required. They have to show this agreement to their current and future employers that they cannot serve as a pharmacy manager, and that there's a fine. So it's, I don't think that there's not any discipline involved with this case whatsoever. Moreover, I think that this individual licensee is planning on no longer planning to practice in the state of Connecticut. So there's a lot of factors that go into making this a settlement that I can support and recommend that this commission approve.
That well said, Brian, and I think I echo and agree with you. At first glance, I thought that the consequences of the actions weren't enough. But when you really think about what is the goal, and typically for me, I like to talk to the drug control agent that was on the front line, because they know how egregious something is. And I know drug control agents sometimes have been happy with outcomes and not so happy with other outcomes, thinking it was too lenient. But I think the ultimate outcome here was more than a fine. Is now we have safeguards in place. And the most important thing is to make sure that this pharmacist doesn't be a pharmacy manager, because they've proven that they can't follow the requirements and the regulations and the safeguards that a pharmacy manager needs to have in order to perform that task. And I think the department got that done, and understanding how the settlements work after all these years, and knowing that the pharmacist can have a hearing going forward, and we didn't have a safeguard or a stop in place to red flag the 2009 decision, is one of the reasons why I think I can live with this settlement. And I do believe there is discipline in it. Could it be more and stronger discipline? Of course it could, but it also could be less if it went to a hearing, not knowing what that outcome may come. And since all parties agreed, and I think the department, correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, you wouldn't have agreed to a settlement, the department and the drug control agent involved are happy with this particular settlement. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Chairman, I have one other question. In the spirit of the consequences, didn't this person also get reported to the National Data Bank, which I think is a pretty severe consequence, in my own opinion?
I agree.
Were they reported to it? I thought that was part of the process. I don't know, Attorney Ando, is that correct?
Well, I wasn't here in 2009. I assume it was some element of the process. This agreement would be reported.
Okay.
Yeah, so again, that kind of is long lasting and follows them everywhere. So
and that's the part that I'm looking for. So if they're not going to practice in the state of Connecticut and they decide, hey, I want to go across the border and practice in the state of Massachusetts, and I want to be a pharmacy manager, I would want us to be able to have something that Massachusetts can look at and say, hey, we should not allow this person to be a pharmacy manager in Massachusetts. So that's kind of where I'm going. And as long as that is in place, I would feel comfortable with that. So that would be my question, Attorney Ando. Is there something in place that can allow, again, whether an employer or another state, to see that there is some restriction or some caution for this pharmacist?
So that's, I do apologize because I think that I was maybe approaching this from the wrong direction of your question. So yes, I mean, at its core, this agreement is the thing that would do that and would trigger those processes. So we would report this agreement as discipline, a license restriction. There are different criteria that they use to determine that, but this checks pretty much all the boxes. So it would be reported. Then when we have an indication this individual might be looking to practice in another state, whenever they make that move, that is something the other state is going to be aware of when they start to look at licensing issues. And it's also something that, again, I don't know exactly how they do this from maybe company to company, but it is something that a company could access if they were seeking to employ this individual, even beyond the requirement that he informed them. So there is that public and sort of more accessible view of this than there would be in maybe a different circumstance that didn't result in an action. So there are really two ways to reach that goal. This settlement agreement way or the formal hearing way. Settlement agreements can be faster. They can give us a lot of flexibility on maybe some of the terms or their restrictions. So we're looking at this as something that would give people the heads up and the notice that they would need when they're looking at an individual with this kind of history. And while I certainly understand the comments that there could be stronger discipline in some ways, I think that these types of restrictions do have an impact on the individuals. So, we're hopeful that it will address the issues, especially with the additional oversight when he's outside of a management role. Will address the issues sufficiently to ensure we don't have a repeat of these behaviors.
Any other questions for Attorney Ando? Hearing none, I will accept. I will start the vote for the motion at hand to accept the settlement agreement as presented by Attorney Ando. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And let the record show that Brian Caffarelli is recused because he was the step-down commissioner.
Thank you.
So the motion passes, the settlement goes forward. Thank you, Attorney Ando. I know it was a longer explanation than usual, but I thought it was very well warranted. And thank you for the other fine esquires that were on the call today. Thank you, Lila, thank you, Kathleen, and Brian.
Oh,
And,
no, I'm thanking them. It's good to see you, Michael, and appreciate all your hard work.
Michael, is there anything that you can tell us, maybe any cases coming forward that we look forward to in the future, or any statistics from the department?
I don't have stats for you today, unfortunately, but I do have a couple things that are floating around, and some of them many of them are related. And I'm happy to see your agenda with the tech ratio coming back up, because I'm going to be listening in for any news about that comes up. But one of the things that I want to touch on quickly is, and we saw this a little bit, we saw discussion about this a little bit just a few minutes ago, but we're having a lot of issues popping up with pharmacies that are having problems keeping pharmacy managers. So not to get dark, but we are
There's quite a list of them today, though, I'll tell you that.
Oh yeah, should plug the gaps, I'm hoping. But we're seeing issues where the pharmacies are not able to work the posted hours or open the posted hours, or they're maybe doing so without a manager. And I think this is an issue for a couple of reasons. One of them is that we've been approaching this from an enforcement perspective from the side of the pharmacy charges. And I frankly would prefer to never have to deal with the pharmacy in this context, because they're in a tough spot sometimes here as well. I know it's, can be a tough employment situation out there, but it's a problem that is being overlooked, I think, sometimes. And it's also a problem for managers that I think, and the pharmacists on duty just generally, that I don't necessarily think is being appreciated at the ground level in the enforcement sense. I'm sure they feel it when they go into work and they're short-staffed, but there is enforceability there for the pharmacy manager when there is a problem with the ratios or the number of hours that they're open. There is a problem there for the past manager who never told anyone they aren't the manager. A lot of people seem to be relying on the company. We've been trying to be very lenient about this, but it seems to be an increasing problem. So I don't want to have my first one-on-one meeting with anyone in the context of, but I'm not the manager, why do I have these charges? But we're having those conversations. So I just want to give a heads up about those kinds of issues. I think it's really important for managers to be aware of that. And it's really important, I think, also for staff pharmacists to be aware so that they're not ending up in uncomfortable positions. So that's one of the things that we're seeing. And I think some of those are issues that you're probably going to touch on in some ways as we move forward. And not just in today's meeting, but in, as you address executive orders ending and all those kinds of things. But I just wanted to put that out as a thing to keep an eye on.
Appreciate it, Michael. It's an echo of my little spiel that I give to all the first-time managers. So I'm glad that you brought it up, and it's the first-time managers that are listening right now. It's one of the reasons why I moved legal matters before the swearing in of the first-time managers, because I think it's important for them to hear cases and things like this to understand some of the pitfalls that may exist out there so that they can prevent and be the best pharmacy manager that they can be. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Attorney Ando. Any other questions for Attorney Ando? Hearing none, have a wonderful day, sir.
Thank you. You as well.
Thank you. All right, speaking of first-time managers, quite the list today. So this is where I butcher everyone's name. So I'll go one by one, and please respond by saying present, that you're online. And again, remember, we need to be able to hear you and see you. All right, so let's start with George Awad. George Awad, are you here, George? Gina, I'm going to call on you a lot. I'm sorry. And do you see George Awad on the screen?
I do not see him.
Okay, no George. Ruth Bernadelle. Ruth Bernadelle.
I do not see her listed.
Okay, no Ruth Bernadelle. We're doing great. Alyssa Bogan. Alyssa.
Present.
Atta girl. Yay. Thank you, Alyssa. Camille Budnick, CVS. Was that a present? Okay. What's happening? What's happening? Camille Budnick.
Present.
Thank you. Laureen Briggs. Cromwell. Laureen
Yes,
Briggs.
I'm here. It's Lauren. It's
so
misspelled.
sorry.
It's 1E. That's okay. But yes, I'm here.
Oh, good. So I didn't mispronounce it. It was misspelled. I appreciate
Yes.
that. Thank you.
Thank
Very
you.
good. Let's take that extra E out there. Jessica, oh boy. Sijelka.
Present. It's the Gelka.
Oh, see, I stink at this. There was a lot of vowels though. I could. Gerald Chung. Hamden.
Present.
Noreen Fatima.
Present.
Thomas Flynn.
Present.
Francis Holland, Cheshire, Stop and Shop Cheshire. Francis Holland. Hearing nothing. Edward Egbor. I know I saw the name. Edward, I mean, CVS New Canaan. Edward, you're there?
Present.
Very good. Sejan Iqbal, Sunrise Pharmacy Orange.
Yeah, present.
Very good. Ruby Jimenez.
Present.
Lorena Lepoli Lebron. Weathersfield.
Present.
Natalie Melanson, Hartford.
Present.
Very good. Rachel Nent Twick, Hartford.
Present.
Sean O'Rourke,
Present.
Lakshman Padi or Pady. Dixwell Pharmacy, Hamden. Lakshman Pady or Padi. Diga Patel.
Present, it's Mega.
Oh, I was one or the other. I chose the wrong one. Why I don't play the lottery. Okay, Teresa Ravel,
Present.
Nicholas Roy,
Present.
Anthony Saputo,
Present.
Orsola Savi,
Present.
Abigail Schmetz,
Present.
Brent Stanton,
Present.
Guo Shang Teo, Meredith,
Present.
Brian Walker,
Present.
Thomas Wallace,
Present.
Aaron Wang or Wang, Aaron Wang.
Don't see him on.
Okay, Kevin Yagle. I thought I saw Kevin Yagle on. Kevin Yagle.
Present.
Very good. Krista Zawitowski.
Present.
Okay, let me go back to the ones that weren't.
Yeah, Francis Howland was here.
Who is?
Francis Holland.
Okay, Francis, are you here? Francis? Are they muted? I can't see.
I don't. Okay, she doesn't show she's muted.
Georgia Wad, is Georgia Wad here?
He is not.
Okay, so George is not here, so he comes off. Ruth Bernadelle. Ruth, she's not. So Gina, make sure that Georgia Wad and Ruth Bernadelle won't be included in this. How about Aaron Wang? Aaron Wang?
Hello?
Oh, you're here?
I've been on the phone call. I just joined on my laptop.
Okay, good. So you're present. So Aaron Wang is present. Good, very good. And that leaves Francis Holland or Holland. Is Francis?
Yeah, I don't know why she's showing on here as a panelist.
Can you see her?
I don't see her, but I see her, I see her on the list.
Well, until she can say she's there, I don't know if it's just an empty screen, so I won't be able to approve it without seeing or hearing her. Francis?
I know, yeah, he said, her mic is not working.
Oh, is that what she said?
You can tell, yeah, like I said, I can see, but
Sorry about this, guys. That's why I can't wait for September and real live meetings again. All right. If you can see that she's on though?
I do see, yes, I see she's here.
Okay, because I can't. So let's include her and say the technology. So we'll include Francis, but for the record, Georgia Wad and Ruth Bernadelle are not here. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So you probably wonder why we do this and why we call you before us. You know, as you can see, one of the reasons why I moved the legal matters before first-time managers is I wanted I wanted to make sure that all first-time managers understand the gravity and the leadership role that the pharmacist manager has. There's a reason why we have this delineation of a manager versus just a staff pharmacist. You're in charge of the prescription department. And if the whole premise is licensed as a pharmacy, like many independents, you're in charge of the whole pharmacy. If you're working for a big box or a big chain, well, you're in charge of the prescription department or the premises that are licensed as a pharmacy. And it's important to hear when things go awry so that first-time managers can make adjustments in their thinking and their culture and their leadership skills, because with today's workplace environment being so difficult, that a good leader and good skills as a pharmacy manager can take you a long way. As you saw in the case that Attorney Ando presented to us, there were some pretty lousy skills there, and there were some pretty poor safeguards put in place by this particular pharmacist manager, and you can see what the outcome was. And to be honest with you, it could have been a lot more severe than what it was. So I can't possibly go over all your duties as a pharmacy manager. I'm going to hit on and touch on some that I think are important and echo some of the things that Attorney Ando brought up today. But there is a fantastic CE that's put out by the University of Connecticut. You can write this down. It's part of pharmacy.uconn.edu/CE, and the CE is called Constant State of Readiness. And it's a great program on what the pharmacist manager's duties are, some of the regulations, and just some of the culture and leadership skills that a pharmacist manager really needs. So I really advise all of you to go online and to take a good look at that. Some of the things that we see coming up, that come up quite often with us, as obviously license expirations. That's something that is going to be audited more often going forward. Technology allows us to do these types of audits going forward. As the pharmacist manager, I think it's a really important thing that you make sure that all your pharmacists are doing their CEs, that they're keeping up with their CEs. I think it's important to know that 15 per year, not 30 within 2 years. I think later on in the agenda, you'll see we're going back to an annual license. I think that'll help. But we've been seeing a lot of these CEs appear before the board. And, I don't know how lenient the board is going to be going forward if you haven't justified, if you haven't fulfilled your CE requirements as they are by regulation. So do yourself a favor. Look at CE, put them into your calendar, make sure you know when they're going to expire. And there's another great tool that can be used in this, and thank you, Commissioner Chisholm, for bringing this up last month. The NABP has a fantastic app that keeps track of your CEs in the vault, and they're real good about understanding which states have which requirements. And if you're multi-licensed, like many of you may be, this app by NABP, I think there's a small fee per month for it, but not only does it keep track of your CEs, but it tells you where you're short, whether you need a live one, whether you need a law one, and it understands all the different states' requirements if you're licensed in multiple states. So I would recommend you getting that. The other thing is, as a pharmacy manager, Attorney Ando touched on it a bit, minimum 35 hours a week is the requirement. You need to work a minimum of 35 hours a week. If you're not going to work 35 hours a week, or the pharmacy is going to be closed to equal less than 35 hours a week, you must ask for a waiver, and you must ask for approval by the board and notify the department. So that's really important. Tech ratios, as we know, it's 2 to 1. It's 3 to 1 with a nationally certified, and for quite some time now, under the emergency COVID orders, we've allowed 4 to 1. And as we'll talk about it later on the agenda also, that 4 to 1 is going to sunset as of the end of this month. And we're going to discuss that in more depth on how long the 4 to 1 is going to continue, and what'll be needed in terms of waivers if a pharmacy believes it needs 4 to 1 or more. But that's something to be discussed. But for your purposes, you should know that the 4 to 1 ratio will sunset at the end of the month, And I would advise you all to stay online to see what the outcome is on whether or not the 4-to-1 ratio is going to be extended and for how long, and what the waiver requirements will be going forward. Diversion, something we don't want to talk about. We hope it never happens, but we know it does. Diversion is a serious problem in all the states. It's a problem in our state. And as the pharmacist manager, you're responsible for those controlled drugs. You're responsible for the inventory, the keeping of those controlled drugs, how they're dispensed, where they're stored. You know, there's little tricks of the trade to understand whether or not diversion may be taking place. You know, maybe the person that does the ordering through CSAUS for a Schedule II drug, or any scheduled drugs for that matter, isn't the same person that checks it in. Make sure you keep those perpetual inventories, those perpetual records. Make sure they're adjudicated on a daily basis, that you just don't go week after week after week and then says, oh, now I got to add them all up and figure it out. Make sure it's done on a daily basis so that your counts are correct and you can see when there's an issue. Understand what's being diverted. Know what drugs are real red flags for diversion. We know the opioids, right, and the painkillers, but the tramadols are diverted. Phenergan with codeine, who would have thought, right, is a highly diverted product. So even sometimes some asthma medications are highly diverted under the gold pill effect, where they're resold backdoor to crooked pharmacies. So understand what the products that are being diverted are in the marketplace, and that'll also help you keep an eye on your inventories and do it correctly. And another issue that's come up is that during these diversion, when the count's been off, pharmacy managers haven't reported it in a timely manner. You only have 72 hours to report any missing controlled substances. So if something's missing, the department gives ample time to see if you can find it, if there's an explanation why the count is off. But within 72 hours, it needs to be reported. Robotics. I know a lot of the busy pharmacies, I had 3 of them in my stores. Robotics are a big part of pharmacy today, and scheduled drugs are in some of those robotics. Well, we've had cases where, oh, it wasn't my fault, the robot miscounted. Well, that's not going to fly when you appear before the commission. Make sure your robotics are working correctly. Any systems that you're using, even poor count systems that you're using, are working correctly, that they've been maintained correctly. And I know in the robots that are available up there today, and any kind of new technology that does pill counting for you, they're pretty good about letting you know whether or not they think they undercounted or they think they overcounted. So just don't ignore those alarms. If they go off, make sure that they're working properly so that there's not a diversion issue in the future. There's probably a lot more I can talk about, but the CE program that I mentioned will cover a lot of it. And now I'd like to invite Commissioner Iguante to speak a little bit about the MedWatch program. Commissioner Iguante.
Thank you, Chairman. And congratulations to all of you on your leadership roles. As you heard from Chairman DeFazio, it's, you know, again, with great leadership assignment comes a great amount of responsibility. So we just want to make sure you also know about the FDA MedWatch program. And that's something we like to see folks sign up for, receiving their push emails. That way you will get on a timely basis any kind of updates to concerns that are reported from the field, changes in prescribing information, changes, recalls, any of that stuff. Looks like most of you are working for a large chain, so I'm sure you have a mechanism in place for getting that information. But again, by virtue of your license, you are committed to lifelong learning and responsible for that. So this is just another way to bring valuable information to you in a maximally efficient forum. So if you have any other questions for me, I'm happy to take them at this time. Otherwise, I will turn this back to Chairman DeFazio.
Commissioners, any questions for these young, eager leaders of the world? Any other questions? First-time managers, any questions for us? Don't be shy. One of these days, I'm going to start picking on people. Any questions for us? Hearing none, I'll just leave you with this. You can't go wrong with just using good judgment. Always in the back of your mind, keep the thought process about public safety is my number one objective with good, positive clinical outcomes and to do no harm. And I'll leave you with this, that make sure that you don't confuse company policy or an employer's policy for state policy, because the state policy is what we're going to judge you on, not what your company's policy may be. So with that, I wish you all luck. I'd like you to stay online to listen to the tech ratio that we're going to go forward. And good luck to all of you in the future. Okay, very good. That was quite the list today. Moving on. Yes, I heard something.
It's Frances Holland. I just wanted to.
Oh, hi. Oh, you're on. Thank you, Francis. Thank you. Well, I included you anyways, I think, so I appreciate that. Thank you for being vocal and being able to see you. Now it's official. All right, let's move on to requests for continuing education program. No, am I in the right place? No, I'm not. Let's move on to pharmacy license law exam request. Is Camilla or Zakowski here?
Yes, I am.
Good morning, Camilla. Could you please raise your right hand? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Did you hear me? You're supposed to. Okay, yeah, you got to say yes. Okay, good. For the record, could you state your name and spell your last name, please?
Yes, my name is Kamila Orzechowski. It's spelled Orzechowski.
Very good. So I know the commissioners, Camilla wrote us a very heartfelt letter and asking for a sixth attempt at passing the MPJE. I know you've all had a chance to read it. Camilla, before the commissioners ask you any questions, do you want to just give us a little brief summary of why you believe the commission should give you another chance above the 5 that are part of our regulations?
Of course, yes. So I'd like to start off by saying that I take full responsibility for not passing this exam. I did try my best and I did not pass it as of now, but I do plan on passing it this 6th attempt. For the past, I guess, since August of last year, I have been attempting to pass this exam. During this time, I also experienced a familial hardship in my family concerning my brother and his, I guess, substance abuse addiction that we had to carry as a family. But in this case, I assumed the lead in my family to help my brother to kind of keep the peace in my family and to help my parents, being the oldest child. It was an ongoing issue since August of last year. It required long hours of conversation with my brother and also research into different types of therapies and any type of help that I could give him. As time went on, I was trying to balance, studying for the exam and also helping him. But it did become all-consuming at some point, and this happened because I learned more and more about what was going on. And it struck me both like emotionally, physically, and mentally throughout this whole time. And it became very frustrating, but all the more I still continued and I told myself, well, this exam is very important. It is my life. It is my future career. And, I pushed forward. It's been my dream for a very long time. And especially after I graduated from the University of St. Joseph last May. Working as a grad intern, I realized that my passion for pharmacy began to flourish as I helped more customers. Having this, actually working as an employee, not as an intern, because it's kind of different when you're in school learning versus when you're kind of on the front lines working with alongside the pharmacist. Concerning my brother, he is now doing much better. It's been a long journey. And like I did mention, he has come around full circle. Right now, the responsibility has shifted from me, mainly, to my father and my sister. So it's kind of in their hands. They're monitoring my brother versus me. I think I maybe took on too much, but it was two very important issues happening at the same time. So that is what I'm kind of thankful for at this point. So that kind of takes a load off my mind, and off my shoulders.
Camilla, for the record, you passed your NAPLEX.
Yes, I did.
First try?
Second try.
Second try.
Second.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Commissioners, any questions for Camilla or any advice, suggestions?
Camilla, this is Commissioner Chisholm. I just wanted to say thank you for being so courageous to come before us to share, what has been going on in your family. That's not an easy thing to deal with and not an easy thing to share in front of, I believe there were like 60 plus people on this call. So I thank you for your courage. And, I'm glad that your brother's doing well and that you do now have time to focus on your exam. And you will pass this time. I have a good feeling. Positive vibes, Camilla.
Thank you.
So any other questions for any of the commissioners for Camilla? Well, I'll take Commissioner Chisholm's lead and make a motion to allow Camilla one more chance to pass the MPJE. So the motion on the floor is to allow Camilla, and I'm never going to pronounce it as well as she did, or Zakowski, I'll say, one more chance to pass the MPJE. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? Abstentions? Hearing no abstentions or no opposed, it passes. Camilla, good luck. Study hard.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Good luck to you and your family, okay? Thank you for appearing before the board today. All right. Let's see, what's next? Almost. Still on page 3, guys, almost. Pharmacist renewal 2022, another continuing education hits our Seo Young Choi. Is Seo Young Choi here?
Hello, I'm present.
Oh, hi, Seo. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Could you please raise your right hand? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
For the record, could you state your name and spell your last name?
Okay, my name is Young Choi, and the last name is CHOI.
Thank you very much. Jean, I'm going to turn it over to you just because your mathematical ability on these is absolutely amazing, and how you calculate what's lacking, what isn't, what time frame it took place in. Could you just update us a little bit on the CE issue with pharmacist Choi?
So good morning, commissioners. And so Ms. Choi sent me an email request on May 20th asking for an extension. She's currently not practicing pharmacy in Connecticut, but she is currently out of the country. When she did her renewal, she did thought that she would complete her CEs in a timely fashion. So she did answer yes. When she submitted me what she had completed, the dates were for the CPE monitor transcript was January 1st of 20 to May 24th of 2022. And in review of those, she had completed 17.25 CE credits. She was lacking, she had completed 3.5 credits in 2020, and she did not complete any in 2021. She did need the complete amount of live and law. So in reviewing and looking at what she needed to be in compliance, she would have needed 12.75 credits and 10 in live and 1 in law. I apologize, she did complete a law in her 2020. Since then, Ms. Choi on 6/17 sent me an email. She has completed all of her requirements for her CEs, for her to be compliant in her renewal.
Retroactively to 2021.
Yes.
Commissioners? Any questions?
I did have a question. And so Gina, she's counting the 2022 credits for the last renewal cycle, correct?
That's correct. So what she's completed, I apologize, I didn't include that date. What she sent me for her transcript was 6/17/20 to 6/17/22. So she's 30 credits compliant, which was the 10 live and the 1 law that she needed. But she will need to go forward when she renews, she'll need her live and law requirements, 5 for the live and 1 in law for the calendar year.
No, and plus 15.
Plus 15
Correct.
credits.
Plus total of 15, plus, yeah.
Correct.
Plus 10, right.
Yes.
Not counting what we're using from
Correct.
2022. Okay.
That's
So
right.
it's
She
almost
cannot
like-
reuse those.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no double dipping. There's
No, I won't.
no double dipping. Ms. Troy, were you on the line were you listening when I brought up the NABP CE monitor?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, it's a great tool, and you can thank Commissioner Chisholm for that, who brought it up. I downloaded it myself. It does quite a bit, and it's worth every penny to keep in track. My question is, when did you last practice in Connecticut?
So I left, I was outside the country in September 2020. So I've been in Korea ever since. So I've been working here, but I do want to keep my license because I do plan to come back to the States in the future. So, and I do apologize for not keeping up with the credits within the timely manner.
Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Troy? Hearing none, I'll accept the motion to grant the fulfillment of the 2020-2021 licensure CE requirements retroactively from Troy. Do I hear a motion? I'll make this motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions? Please keep up to date, Ms. Troy. And I think one of the things on the agenda coming up, going back to an annual license, will help solve this a lot. So thank you very much. Thank you for joining us from overseas. I know it's a different time zone. So thank you for being on. All right.
Thank you.
All right, very good. And we can officially move to the last page of the agenda. Request for continuing education program approval. Kenyatta Banks. Commissioner Nguante, you want to tell us about this? Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman. This was a program that was presented the beginning of this month, June 8th. The program speakers were 3 of our drug control agents, Daniel Carpenter, Chris Weimer, and Michelle Sylvester. And they presented an hour and a half, really a manufacturing program. And their audience were pharmacists, cosmetic manufacturers, and it was a virtual. They had submitted all the documentation, including everything. We have a requirement and a process for this. They did provide all 85 slides of their presentation, their CVs, and the requested amount is 1.5 CEUs of live law. And I am recommending, based on the submission, that we approve this.
You hear the request before the board. Do I hear a motion to accept?
So moved.
I will second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. Thank you, Commissioner Guante. And this is where the change in the agenda. I'd like to pull out, Gina, the miscellaneous matters, the first line item, pharmacist slash pharmacy technician ratios, and I'm going to move it before the community pharmacy request from Allison Weincheck. So I'm going to start by clearing the air on how the executive orders worked and the sunsetting, because in-house we have a legislative expert on our board, and he just unmuted because he knows exactly who I'm talking about. And there's a lot of confusion sometimes for us lay people that don't spend as much time at our state capitol between what a governor's executive powers are versus an executive order, and the departments that are asked for input on those executive orders, and then when it's actually a law that sunsets. So Bri, if you can quickly and simply for us explain that process and what's happening on June the 30th.
Sure. Thanks.
Thank you.
So in as simple terms as possible. So in March 10th of 2020, the governor issued his first declaration of a public health emergency and civil preparedness emergency. And those were subsequently renewed on multiple occasions until ultimately his expired on February 15th of this year. On February 14th, that day before that expired, the General Assembly passed a resolution declaring a public health and civil preparedness emergency, which ran kind of subsequent to the governor's expiring, and that expires tomorrow, which is June 30th. They also passed a bill, HB 5047, which codified several of the governor's executive orders and continued them until the end of June. Now, I guess I'll back up a little bit in terms of an executive order that applied to this commission, which was 7I, that was passed in March of 2020, that allowed the commissioner to also kind of waive certain regulations as it applied to the operation of pharmacy. But my understanding is that this commission has used its waiver powers and changed the ratio from 3 to 1 to 4 to 1, concurrent with a existing declaration of a public health emergency, which is set to expire tomorrow. So we, as a commission, have the authority under the regulations 20-576-59 to issue waivers, but it had been the opinion of this commission that it would be done so in terms of, with regard to what was going on with COVID, concurrent with any current declarations of a public health emergency. There's one wrinkle since we last spoke, Chairman. The governor yesterday issued another a declaration of a public health emergency that will follow the expiration of the General Assemblies starting July 1st. He does not intend, in his letter, he stated that he does not intend to issue any executive orders under it. It's merely to allow the state to benefit from federal assistance for SNAP benefits, but that expires December 28th. But that's kind of the lay of the land with regard to the declarations of public health emergencies. So I probably further confused the matter, but I can answer any questions.
You didn't. You said that beautifully. I'm just wondering, are we staff? Do we get some of that federal money being commissioners? I guess not, huh?
No.
Oh.
SNAP is
Okay. Just was wondering.
low-income families for food assistance.
Okay, thanks. So I thought it was important that we put this on because technically, as of July 1st, a drug control agent could walk into a pharmacy, do an audit, see 4-to-1 back there, and it's a violation. Because 4-to-1 isn't the law, as Brian said. 4-to-1 ratio was a waiver that the department used under these emergency orders, and it was put into law, and that law will sunset as of June 30th. So I thought it was important because I think it wouldn't be right for that to kick in immediately on July 1st. As a former pharmacy owner and understanding how this 4-to-1 ratio has been used out during COVID times to help some of the workplace environment during those emergency times, I think I wanted to extend allowing a 4-to-1 ratio. And my suggestion was going to be, and I'm going to make a motion, and hopefully there'll be a second, then we can open up for discussion and then we can decide, as I would like to make a motion to extend the 4-to-1 ratio without applying for a waiver for the next 90 days through October 1. And the reason why I think that's fair is it gives employers 90 days to create new scheduling. It gives employers 90 days to comply with the 3-to-1. And it'll also give employers, I'm sorry, I should have said employers, not employees. It'll also give employers 90 days to follow the waiver regulations and perhaps ask for a waiver if they like to, if they believe 3-to-1 doesn't suffice their workplace. And there's very specific waiver asks and rules. It's under section 20-576-59. And I just want to go over them real quick so that everyone understands how the waivers work. One, it's got to be your written request. Number two, that the modification or the waiver can't adversely affect the health, safety, or welfare of the public. The basis for the request has to be clearly substantiated. And that's something that I think is going to be really important because I don't see us as being rubber stamping waivers left and right. You know, they really have to be substantiated. It has to be compliance, it has to be with the particular regulation. And it'll have to be impractical or unduly burdensome. So if the 3-to-1 is incredibly impractical or unduly burdensome, then that's another reason why we may want to approve a waiver. The pharmacist manager is the one that has to appear and also the one that has to ask for the waiver in writing. It has to be a very specific regulation that they're asking a waiver modification to. They have to have a reason for the request, a description for any alternative measures that need to be employed. And then any other relevant information that the commission can take into account to evaluate that waiver before it's approved. One of the other reasons why I believe it's important for us to extend this 4-to-1 technician ratio without a waiver for at least 90 days is it gives the department and input from us as commissioners to come up with some type of backbone questionnaire for these waivers. We've experienced waivers before and some of them have gone a little awry. So I thought it was important that we at least give a time frame for us and the department to come up with some very relevant questions, not the only reason why we would deny or approve a waiver, but at least to have some backbone of a template that is equal amongst everyone. Because I don't see us approving a waiver, oh, you fill 1,000 prescriptions a week and you fill 4,000, you get it and you don't. I don't think the board should be put in that type of situation because that's very uncomfortable and frankly, frankly, it's very difficult to judge who needs a waiver in that case. So I'm going to make a motion to extend the 4-to-1 ratio for the next 90 days to expire on October 1st to give us time and employers time to go back to the original 3-to-1 regulations or come up with waiver asks as it pertains and the waiver modifications as it pertains in section 20-576-59. So that's the motion before you.
I'll second that.
There's a second. Now open for discussion. Commissioners?
I have some questions, Mr. Chairman, and I'm not sure, I guess, Commissioner Caffarelli, if you're the right person to answer this. So, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate you explaining the waiver process, because those were the questions that I had. I wanted a little bit more information on the waivers and what that looked like. But I guess my question is, when we issued the waivers before for COVID, it wasn't upon request. So it appeared that it was a blanket waiver, that we allowed the extension to 4-to-1 as a blanket for all pharmacies. So Commissioner Caffarelli, are we not allowed to continue to do that? Do we now have to go to what is in the regulation in terms of it has to be upon request and all of the specifics that the chairman described?
So I'm not the commission's attorney, so I can't give opinions, but I mean, I feel comfortable laying out the procedural background of where the declarations of public health and civil preparedness emergency lie. I will say that, I think that what we're operating on currently is a general waiver that's running concurrent with the public health declaration of a public health emergency. It's not in a specific executive order. Right.
Okay, so does that only exist if there is a declaration of that can exist outside of a declaration of public emergency, healthcare emergency? I don't remember exactly the verbiage. I just want to get a better understanding of what that process looks like.
The commission does have the authority under the regulation that the chairman outlined, 20-576-59, to issue waivers. Whether they're general or specific, I think that there's some room there for interpretation, but you can certainly respond to particular ones. There is a request for a waiver. Whether we grant that particular waiver or grant a waiver in general, my feeling is that it would be up to the body to determine that.
Thank you, Commissioner Caffarelli. That gives me a lot of information, because, Mr. Chairman, my concern is we're going to have everyone coming to us for a waiver. I mean, when I look back at us extending this to 4-to-1 for the last 2.5 years, I think it was warranted, right? We have, most of it is due to immunizations. So we have not only our flu immunizations, but we have the COVID immunizations, the boosters. Now we have, 6 months to 4 years old. So, I mean, we're pretty much looking at the potential of a new vaccine coming out right around that time of what you're proposing as an expiration in October. So would we now have to go back and extend this again potentially if we have boosters, new vaccines on top of flu, and we're having so many issues in the pharmacies in terms of them closing, not having enough staff? I mean, I just see this as potentially being a perfect storm that may be a risk to public health. I think what I would prefer, if possible, is if we can amend your motion, and I would prefer not having specific waivers, so people have to come to us, but continue that blanket waiver for ratio 4-to-1. And I would extend it further, because I think as long as COVID is still a public health emergency within this country, it's a public health emergency for the state of Connecticut. And so extending it longer, potentially to as long as the PrEP Act, right? The PrEP Act is in existence for that reason, or if it can't extend that long, then we go to a longer period of time past flu season, the end of the year. I'm hearing an echo all of a sudden.
Please mute your monitors if you're not speaking. Thank you.
And Brian, it looked like you were raising your hand to kind of interject.
I did. I
so-
just wanted to clarify, and I don't mean to interrupt, Commissioner. I just want to clarify. I believe, and the motion I was seconding was that this is a general waiver until October 1. I understand.
That is correct. It would be
Okay,
general.
so that wasn't specific to me, so.
Oh, I
okay,
apologize. Yes, no, it certainly would be general.
Right.
Until October 1. I think your request, Deb, is to
Extend it
that
longer.
90 days isn't long enough.
I don't think it's long
Would you
enough.
would you like to suggest a time frame, the end of the year then?
I'm thinking through the end of the year and I question, would that even be enough? Because we don't know what COVID is going to look like at the end of the year. And if we look at the last 2 years, I mean, in that, December timeframe, I mean, especially around the holidays, COVID was more rampant. So I would suggest, at a minimum, we revisit at the end of the year, but I would probably suggest, as long as it's a federal emergency, COVID is a federal emergency, we extend for that time period. Because like I said, the majority of that 4-to-1 ratio is used for immunizations.
I don't know if that's a fact. We like to believe that fourth technician played an administrative role on the immunization side. I think I'd be willing to extend it to the end of the year with input from the other commissioners, and I will change and make an amendment to my motion to have it expire at the end of the year. I think it's also important that the department, and in particular our director, has done Rod has done a fabulous job of trying to increase efficiencies in a quality assurance way. We now have central fill that passed. Remember, this passed last September. It was open for public comment, and it was codified and approved in regulation in this past February. So we have central fill that can efficiently help pharmacies, especially really busy pharmacies. And we also have offsite administrative filling of prescriptions that not only pharmacists, but technicians can also do that. So I think that also can help. And thinking of those two processes, because they're relatively new and maybe it takes a little longer time to implement those new efficiencies that have been approved by the department, I can see extending this to the end of the year. And I would be fine to change my motion and say that the 4-to-1 ratio for technicians, general waiver 4-to-1 through December 31st, 2022. I'll make that motion and change and amend my motion and listen to other commissioners with their opinions and what they think or how we should go forward. Commissioners?
I have a question, Chairman, before that. I think obviously the only month coming up that we're not going to meet is July. So certainly if you were to extend this through October, and based on the effectiveness of all the new vaccines and the additional populations that are getting vaccinated, we can put the COVID issue on one side. Additionally, as far as central fill goes, there are a lot of chain pharmacies in this state that have very robust central fill models in other states. So I doubt that anyone's going to be recreating the wheel. But I would just like us to be pragmatic. The other thing that's missing here is, although this has gone on for 2 years, I don't know that we've ever seen any data in terms of how effective is this additional tech? What's the error rate look like? What's the ability for one pharmacist to supervise simultaneously 4 technicians? So, it would be one thing if we weren't meeting again for a very long time. But we're just taking July off. So again, I think you could extend this to October 1st. We could, again, have this ongoing dialogue. Perhaps some data would come forward between now and then we could just revisit it. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the Commissioner Nguante. And, I do know some of the statistics. I know that technician applications are up in well over 1,000 in the past 2 or 3 years. So I know that there's more technicians than ever before that are being licensed by the department. From the pharmacists that I speak to in the environment, I speak to quite a bit because they personally email me with complaints quite often. It's a lot of this has to do with clerks. They don't have enough clerks. That the pharmacist or technician has to man a register or man the drive-through window, and they're taken away from what their real prime responsibility should be. So, you can have 10 clerks to do clerk type work and not use technicians. I think Debbie's kind of opened up, Commissioner Chisholm has opened up my eyes a little bit. It's going to take us a little longer than I thought maybe to come up with a real good questionnaire that fits the mold, because as you'll see, it could be a closed pharmacy, a nuclear pharmacy, it could be a busy 24-hour store, it could be, and we don't know where flu season's going, because Deb, if your scenario comes true that oh, you know what, we could be in COVID again, well, there's going to be emergency orders that blanket whatever we approve today to move it forward. So I have some faith in our state understanding if that happens again, just rekindling exactly what we're experiencing now. What I want to try to do is come up with a very fair way for employers to be compliant with the law that was there before COVID and give them enough time to put new efficiencies in place that are allowed now, like central fill, like offsite filling of prescriptions, as well as give us time and the department time to absorb any waiver requests and create a template to be able to say yes or no in a consistent fashion by looking at that template request for a waiver. So saying all that, I think that through the end of the year is really fair, because that's 5 meetings. Gina, we meet from August through December, right? There's no, oh no, do we have a meeting in November?
We don't have a meeting in December. Do we have a meeting in December? No, sorry.
November,
right?
Not
Right.
December.
November.
Yeah.
November. So we won't have a meeting in December.
Okay, so that's 4 out of 6 months that we have a meeting. And I think that's a lot better than 2 out of 3. So I'm willing to amend my motion to extend the 4-to-1 waiver as a blanket 4-to-1 waiver through the end of the year to give employers and pharmacies the ability to incorporate some of the new regs that have been approved, i.e. central fill, i.e. offsite filling of prescriptions, as well as the department and the commission to create at least some type of backbone template on these waivers going forward. But I will be very clear, I don't think that this is going to be a rubber stamp waiver. There'll have to be substantial cause to have a 4-to-1 ratio approved, say January 1st in the future. And hopefully everything goes smooth. So that's my motion.
Can I say one additional? Can I have one additional comment? So I think, Mary, to your point is getting the data. I mean, I would love to get the pharmacist's opinion as to whether they want a larger ratio, because honestly, they're the best people to tell us what's better. They have the ability to reduce the ratio, right? Any pharmacist can say, I'm at capacity. I am, supervising too many people. I'm not, you can't be a technician. You have to be a clerk, cashier, whatever you want to call it. They have that ability now, but they don't have the ability to say 3-to-1 is not enough, 4-to-1 is not enough. I think we may want to consider, we're doing annual renewals, right? So why not have some questions during the renewal process to ask them, what would they like? I mean, I'd love to hear from them. We want to talk about data.
Yeah, I don't know if the department wants to start asking survey questions on licensure.
Well, I think
I don't think they want
to collect data. Anything to collect data.
No,
if we want to hear from the pharmacist, something I think we should consider.
Yeah, well, I think that's what associations are for. I think that's what large organizations like the one you work for are for. There's the 3-lettered chain and the big W and the RAs that are out there. I mean, they have the survey capabilities, and so do all these associations, not only on a local level and our state level, but on a national level. So pharmacists that are engaged, and that's something that I got to remember to always put into my first-time managers, to join your associations. I used to say that in the past and I forgot. Now I'm going to add that. Thank you, Deb. It's
But
another.
it only takes a snapshot. If we did a survey, so if we did all the chains, we'll only capture the chains. I mean, we won't get independents, we won't get,
sure
we won't get the hospital pharmacists, we won't get closed door. I mean, I think we need, and associations, I'd love to say everyone is part of CPA, I am, but not every pharmacist.
Right, but there's a hospital association, there's the APHA that I know Mary's so involved with, there's the NCPA that a lot of the chain pharmacists are involved in, that I used to be involved with. So I think the surveying should be done outside of the state. I don't think that we should have a ballot box survey on our licenses. I wouldn't go for that, and I don't think that the department would like that. But
I think we need a good way to collect the data.
But I think
what that is to be determined.
Right, numbers are important. Listen, I've spoken to pharmacists that said no, 41 is too much. That when I go to do a vaccine and I come back, now the prescriptions are piled up twice as high as they were before, versus 4 to 1 or 3 to 1. So I've heard pharmacists say, no, 4 to 1 is too much. I need clerks, I need cashiers, I need someone to man the window, I need someone to answer the phones. So that, so it goes both ways. But I think this is a very fair way and a very professional, fair way, and it keeps public safety and workplace environment and some of the things you described in check until through the rest of the year to see where we end up. And there's a mechanism to go to 4 to 1 if COVID, pray to God that it doesn't rear its ugly head again. There's a mechanism if there's a cause for 4 to 1. Otherwise, it goes right back to where it was. And I've been on the board quite a while. Marion has been on much longer than I never recall once a pharmacy asking for a waiver to go higher than 3 to 1 pre-COVID. Never once. Mary, am I right?
Yeah, you're correct. No, we've never entered.
So my question is, what's different before versus now? Yes, COVID and some immunizations, but that may go away and it may become a regular flu shot. So I think it's very fair to extend the blanket 4 to 1 ratio through the end of the year. That's my motion. Do I hear a second?
So I had previously seconded it, and I agree to that amendment. So I'll second that as well.
Thank you, Mr. Caffarelli.
I would, oh, sorry.
That's quite all right. So you heard a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. So the blanket 4 to 1 moves to the end of the year. And let's hope on January 1st, we're back to normal.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Can I suggest that perhaps we invite the Director of Drug Control to join us in October to report on any,
I talked to him yesterday.
Okay, good.
Been invited, and it's
Okay.
going to take him some time. And I told him that we know we don't have a meeting in July. And I said, when you're ready, it'd be great
Perfect.
for you.
Thank you.
Come to our meeting. And I think that the goal is maybe to have him appear in our first live meeting in September, as long as our room's available, Gina. So, okay, moving on. Now we'll move on. And I think that clears up a lot of questions that are going to come forward. Is Community Pharmacy Norwalk here? Allison Weincheck.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Hi, Allison. How are you?
Hi. Good. How are you?
Good. Could you please raise your right hand? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Good. For the record, could you please state your name and spell your last name?
Allison Wincek, Wiencek.
Okay, so what brings you before the board today?
I guess we're going to be the guinea pig.
Actually, before we start, I want to commend you and your organization for actually being the only one to realize that, oh, geez, on July 1st, the 4 to 1 goes away. And you're the first one to ask for a waiver. But continue.
Yeah, so I've been a pharmacist with Connecticut Pharmacy for over 10 years now, and managing the long-term care pharmacy for about 7. So kind of been in this space a while. And since the emergency order came into play back in March, we've actually seen great benefits to having the 4-to-1 ratio in both our efficiencies, our production, and also in an increase in safety to our patients that we serve. So I kind of gathered some numbers and things for you to kind of hear our case. So I don't know if you want to ask me questions, or I should just kind of provide some of our numbers. What do you think we should do?
Commissioners, do you have any questions for Allison? I have a question.
Sure.
You said you increased safety. How'd you measure that?
So what I did was I looked at all of our medication errors that we reported in our QA binder. So from 2017, I have them here, to 2019, the annual average was 12.6. And then from 2020 to 2022, it went down to 7.6, which is almost a 40% reduction in those errors.
And you think that has to do with adding a 4th technician?
I do. So what I've seen and what our other pharmacists see is that adding that 4th technician, we're really able to focus more on the clinical, quality assurance and things that pharmacists should be doing, rather than some of the other tasks that we are required to do as a closed door pharmacy. So we aren't open to the public. So we don't necessarily have that pressure of the public, standing there demanding their prescriptions right away. But what we do have are other, tasks, tech functions that need to be done for our nursing facilities, including we offer 4 different types of compliance packaging. Not only are we filling prescriptions, but we have to provide the nurses with medical records so that the nurses are able to administer the medications. We do a lot of retroactive billing, cycle fills, bulk filling of that compliance packaging. We also have to deal with all the electronic medical records processing. And also we have, a robot in the pharmacy that a technician has to man. So before the 4-to-1 ratio, sometimes those duties that a technician would be doing, the pharmacist had to do to help. Whereas now with that added technician, the pharmacists are really, really focused on 1, managing the techs, but 2, really being able to focus on that quality assurance and last check before the medication leaves the door.
Commissioners? Are there multiple pharmacists on? And so,
yeah.
So you're saying up to 8 technicians if there's 2 and 12?
So usually every day we have 3 on, could be 4, could be 5.
Pharmacists?
Pharmacists, yep.
So
but usually it's 3.
Okay, so want to go from 9 to 12 techs?
Correct. And then just a note too, I did gather kind of some information because in the executive order, they, really stress the importance of, quality techs, those with some, time being a tech. So I looked into that also. We have 27 techs right now, 6 are CPHT certified, 21 have over 5 years of experience.
That's great.
And actually 8 have over 10 years experience with us in the pharmacy. So our techs are sometimes running circles around the pharmacists. They really know what's going on. So again, it really, really allows the pharmacists to be doing the clinical things that, they should be doing.
One of the reasons why I moved the agenda, Allison, is because, I'm going to recommend that we don't approve this at this time because you are allowed the 4-to-1 through the end of the year. It's going to give the department enough time. And you brought up some of the important questions that are going to be part of this waiver. Experience plays a major role because if there's inexperienced technicians out there, adding an inexperienced person to 4-to-1 just makes it that much tougher.
Of course, yeah.
Having an experienced crew like yours is one of the questions that'll be asked is how much experience do the technicians have? Measurables, like what you said, having a QA of near misses. My assumption is those are near misses, right, Allison? Your safety protocol that you talked about, they weren't real med errors, they were near misses.
No, those were the med errors that
Okay.
actually, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's a huge reduction in that. I thought there was a near miss that you're
No,
keeping
that's
QA
actually ones that left the door.
like we used to before they left the door.
Yeah.
So, but these are kind of things that I think will be really important in the waiver process. Because you have until the end of the year now, to continue with a blanket waiver of 4-1. I'd like to make the motion to table this until a waiver form comes out, and now you're safe for the next 6 months, and you can fill out that waiver request once we have the backbone to it, and then you can come back to us, because to approve it now, it's kind of a double dip since it's okay until the end of the year. So that's my recommendation, my comment. I don't know what the other commissioners are thinking or want to make any comment or suggestions. Commissioners?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I tend to agree with you. I think we would need a lot more information to go from where we are now to, accommodate this request. So I would agree that we wait until the end of the year. We can gather more information, more data, and make a better decision.
Right, and because we've extended it to the end of the year, I don't feel that I'm impacting your business as of July 1st. That's exactly what I wanted to avoid, is to have a business like yours impacted on July 1. So it gives time. Any other commissioners have any comments, suggestions?
I definitely agree with that, Chairman. Good proposal.
Thank you, Commissioner Carberry. All right, in that case, the request for increased tech ratio at this time is going to be denied. I'll take a vote on it. And do I hear a motion? Actually, I should say, do I hear a motion to accept a request to increase the pharmacy technician ratio? Okay, hearing none, it doesn't pass. And for those reasons, Allison, we're going to say no at this time, but it doesn't mean no forever. But your business won't be impacted, at least for the next 6 months.
Okay, thank you.
But thank you very much for appearing and making those excellent points.
Yeah.
And if you have any suggestions, because you brought us some good ones, the department would love to hear some of the suggestions going forward to include in some of the questions going forward, because you brought up some very important points, and I appreciate that.
Sure.
Okay, thank you, Allison.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. So we move that. Let's go to pharmacist license renewal change annually. Gina, would you like to explain the timing on this, and for some of us whose license is going to expire, say 2024, and some of us whose license is going to expire in 2023, how's it going to go into effect?
So the law was changed to do the pharmacist license renewal on effective July 1st. It goes into effect on January 31. It will expire. Now we are still working on the details as far as how the licenses that have been renewed till 2024, those details are still being worked on. But pretty much for the new folks that are getting licensed by July 1, their license will come up on renewal in 2023. So as I said, for the folks that are already have their license presently in effect till 2024, those details are still being worked on.
Okay. But there isn't going to be a double dip where a pharmacist has to double pay for a period of time.
I don't believe so. No.
Okay. Now, this isn't something we have to approve. This has already been changed, correct?
Yes, the law has already gone into effect.
Okay, good. And I think this will go a long ways in helping us with CEs. I really do. In
Gina,
fact, go ahead.
Sorry, Chairman, I have one just clarifying question. So because I want to, we ask questions. There are questions about this on the MPJE. So so this is really going into effect though January 1st, 2023. Is that correct? Is that the way that gets executed?
No, because they expire January 31 of 2020. Okay. Right. I'm not real clear on how the expiration goes. I mean, it shows on January 31st. Okay, it goes in, sorry, I'm getting some help on this. It goes into effect on July 1st
Now of 2022.
Of this year.
of 2022, yes.
Correct.
Effective July 1, 2022, it's in effect
Okay.
as of
all right.
Friday. So this
Okay.
Friday.
I'm gonna have to, yeah, I'll have to reach out to the leadership at the MPJE on this. So I'll send a note and copy you and Rod.
Yeah, no, thank you for that, Mary. That's,
Yeah, yeah,
that makes a lot of sense.
yeah.
Okay, very good. Now turning it over to Commissioner Chisholm, who attended the NABP annual meeting, and she'd like to give us an update. How were things?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this was in May and May, yes. And so by the time our meeting, there wasn't enough time to kind of gather everything together. So in May, we were in Phoenix, Arizona for the 118th NABP annual meeting. And there were a few things that I just wanted to bring to our commission, one of which I think we're all aware, and I think I'm probably well, no, there's Commissioner Caffarelli and Commissioner Linder that came on the board after me. But I think around the time where workplace conditions have been on the forefront for us in Connecticut, I think it's been going on for a very long time. And we've addressed it in some ways. We've done surveys. I know a lot of other boards have done similar, but it's something I think with COVID and the shortage in the workplace, right? That doesn't affect just pharmacists, affects a lot of different industries. I think we're starting to see it rear its head again in a very different way. And we can see that by pharmacy closures and things of that nature. So we have a new NABP president who's Reggie Dillard, and part of his presidential initiative is actually going to be workplace conditions. And similar to what we were talking about, how do you gather the right data as to pharmacists and how they feel and what the workplace conditions really are, because it's very different depending on where in the industry you're working, right? It's going to be different for the chains, it's going to be different for independents, it's going to be different for hospital, nuclear, it's going to be very different. And so he is going to kind of look at this from a more holistic view. So I think there's going to be a lot more to come, some things from NABP that will help our board kind of figure out how do we address some of these issues that we know are existing in our state. So I'll have definitely more to come. I encourage any one of you, especially the newer board members, the newer commissioners, to attend if you can. It's a little expensive, but if you can, there's a lot of great information. You hear a lot of what's happening in other states, a lot of good information that comes out of NABP that can help us better make decisions, for our public. There were a couple of resolutions that were passed, and one was NABP is going to examine the definition of a pharmacist as a healthcare provider in their model state Pharmacy Act and their model rules. So when we think about what we did as a profession in immunizations and helping to protect this country against COVID, we were essential. I don't believe we could have gotten as many vaccines, my opinion, out if pharmacists were not involved. And yet we're not recognized even nationally as a healthcare provider. That makes me a little sad. I think we are right there. We're a part of that healthcare team and we should be recognized. So NABP is going to review that in defining pharmacists as a healthcare provider. There's also a resolution to conduct a survey to collect data regarding e-prescribing concerns. So there are some states, 24 states, that mandate in some way, shape, or form e-prescribing. And I believe we've all seen some issues with e-prescribing, right? What happens if you e-prescribe and the store is closed? How does that go? How does that patient get their medication? So there are a lot of concerns with e-prescribing. I think it's a great tool right? It helps to prevent some diversion. We don't have to worry about, is this hard copy script valid? Did someone steal a pad from a provider? So I think there are a lot of benefits. So there's going to be a survey to collect data just to look at e-prescribing and try to address some of the concerns that occur as a result of e-prescribing. There's also going to be a resolution to examine the development of a national standardized pharmacy jurisprudence. Say that after being in this meeting for 4 hours. For state boards to utilize. And when you think about it, a lot of the other professions, they can cross state lines in practice. Again, a lot of this is examining, and I appreciate this about NABP. They want to take a look at it. What does that look like? I know during COVID, we've done some things with a temporary license. Pharmacist needs to move to another state and practice. How do we better address this? So there will be some examining of what that looks like. There will also continue discussions with the DEA regarding issues related to patient access. So when you look at the HIDE Act and how this affects telepharmacies, right? So telepharmacies have to use e-prescribing and, for controlled substances. And there are some concerns there. So they're reviewing that. I don't think that's as big of an issue for us in Connecticut. We don't have as much, but we know telepharmacy is growing, right? That is something that we're seeing more and more. And there are benefits to better patient access. And then also there's a resolution to review a multi-state licensure and again, allowing pharmacists to practice across the state. So a lot of things that are being considered and talked about. I think what I enjoy about the NABP meetings, district meetings, annual meetings, is we get to hear from other states and what they're doing, how they're addressing some of these issues, right? We know that there are some things going on now with fraudulent orders being placed at some pharmacies. I think people get very creative. So there are a lot of issues that are going on, and in a lot of cases, we don't have to recreate real. We don't have to figure out, well, how do we address this from scratch? We can look at other states as a baseline and kind of consider what to do. But a lot of conversation about workplace conditions. I think it's phenomenal that that is going to be the presidential initiative, so that we can kind of figure out how do we address this, because we know it's out there, right? It affects all of us, no matter what part of the industry you're in. So there will be more to come on that.
That's awesome update. And again, it's the same scenario. Pharmacist scope of practice increases, where the most underutilized, well, I don't know if I can say that anymore, most underutilized healthcare professional, but we're not considered healthcare professionals. And, I know Rick can attest to this, but I spent many, many years down in Washington, D.C. Fighting for that. And it's a line item budget issue.
Exactly.
Not that they don't think we can do it.
Exactly.
But it'll cost Medicare a lot more money if we get that title. So that's what we have to overcome. And we thought we could ride that wave when it was the flu, when we dispensed and administered thousands and thousands of flu vaccines. Now, hopefully we can use the momentum of COVID to get that passed, but it is a line item. But thank you for that update, Deb. Any questions or comments for Deb?
No, I just want to say, yesterday I was on the ASHP report out on the survey they did for the 2021 pharmacy practice. And I shared that report with Chairman DeFazio and with Rod Marriott. And they are aligned, with the NABP in terms of seeking out the provider status. But there was also a lot of fascinating metrics in terms of how technicians are used and, other things that I think these types of agents, these surveys from these associations can help us to better define our practice and move forward. So I echo all of Debbie's comments.
I appreciate that, Commissioner Guante. When I looked at the silo of percentages of duties for the technicians, I was amazed at what they do. And more importantly, what they can do that they don't do.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah, it was very interesting. So I appreciate you sharing that with me. Okay, thank you very much for that update, Commissioner Chisholm. And moving on, request for non-resident pharmacy approvals. Commissioner Nguante.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, what our agenda made up for in length, I have a short report for you all. And I saw that during this meeting, Gina sent this out under separate cover. So you all in your email have the complete report. Again, very brief, predominantly community mail order applicants this time, no compounding. All were approved with the exception of 2 that they just need to submit the rest of the documentation. So pretty straightforward. And like I say, you have my report in your email.
Any questions for Commissioner Nguante? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve the non-resident pharmacy as presented. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Abstentions, so moved. I will accept a motion to approve the pharmacy minutes of last month. I'll make a motion to approve them. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Abstentions. Thank you, guys. I know it was a long one, certainly not one of my record shorter ones, but
Is this a record for length for a regular meeting without a hearing?
you know
This
what?
might be a record.
It could be a record. We've been there.
I think we've
longer
gone to
when we
one.
had- Yeah, when we had hearings right after.
Yeah, with a hearing, but without a
Yeah,
hearing.
without a hearing, this one may be a long one.
It looks like someone has raised their
Has a
hand.
question. Guao Sheng Tae, you have a question?
Yes, sir. I do apologize if I missed it. For new managers, was there a swearing in ceremony that we were supposed to do?
No, were you present?
I was present, sir.
Yeah, so there's really not a swearing in. It's a basically listen, learn, and be a great leader. So, but I appreciate that. I appreciate
Acknowledge. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good luck to you. Thank you. Okay.
Another question.
Krista has a question. Krista, your hand is up.
Hi, sorry. So I just realized on the agenda, my name is spelt wrong and it says I'm in the Milford location, but I'm actually in the New Milford location.
Okay.
I don't know if that matters.
Gina, did you hear that? I didn't, so you can make the correction.
Yeah, Krista, just send me an email because if I got it from the designated rep, that's what they sent me. So if you could just send me an email and I'll update it in the minutes.
Okay.
Thank you, Krista.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other hands up that I can't see? It's a pretty cool tool, huh? The hands up. Wow. All right. Well, listen, guys, happy 4th of July to all of you. Let's celebrate this great country of ours. And I look forward to seeing you guys in August.
Oh, wait.
No,
Did we make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Deb.
No, we won't see you in August.
No, I wanted to go on.
No August, no August.
No August. No July. No August.
No,
July.
September.
September.
Our live first meeting.
Oh, for live. That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Have a great
Bye,
day.
everyone.
Thank
See
you.
you later.
Have a
Everybody.
great holiday.
All right, guys. Ciao.
Thank you.
Ciao. Thank you for your patience today. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gina. You did a great job. This was
Thank
a hard
you.
one. Thank you, Annie. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.